Good morning, everybody. The Housing, Urban Development and Zoning Committee for February 24th, 2022 will be called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis,
Present.
Alderman Cone, Alderman Coder,
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Martin,
Present.
Alderman Ryan,
Here.
Alderwoman Evans,
Present.
Chairman Boyd.
Present.
7 present, you have quorum.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes dated February the 22nd, 2022.
I move to approve the minutes dated February 22nd, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderman Cone, Alderman Coder,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Martin,
Aye.
Alderman Ryan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Chairman Boyd.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
By your vote, you have approved the minutes for February 22nd, 2022. Board bills for review. We're going to take members who are not on the committee first, and I'm just going to go in the order of the board bill. So first board bill before us is Board Bill 189, sponsored by Alderman Stevens. Alderman Stevens, you're recognized on Board Bill 189.
Thank you, Chairman Boyd and members of the HUD's committee. Board Bill 189 seeks to bring a sort of interesting parcel of land, which is actually 4 parcels of land, into congruence, all under a Zone F designation. Currently, it's split across 2 Zone F, 2 Zone A. It is a commercial area. It's a Steak and Shake, if anyone is familiar with the area at Graveway and Hampton. And this just allows the property owner to actually move forward on having another business go in, getting building permits for a new non-restaurant business, and ultimately helps to clean up the city's sort of zoning parcels just a wee bit more, which, as this committee knows, is an ongoing, ever-going process. I do have one speaker today, Mr. Chairman. That would be Ms. Lynn Gessling. Would you like for me to invite her to speak, or should I defer to you?
No, I'll invite her to speak. I see her on the line. Good afternoon, Ms. Gessling. Good morning, I'm sorry.
Good late morning, early afternoon.
Do you promise or affirm or swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed with your testimony.
Okay, so can I share a screen, or I have an aerial, or I believe there's an aerial in the packet. I think it would help to have a visual of the property.
I think you should be able to share.
Okay, let's see if this works. There we go. Okay. Can you see the aerial of the property that I pulled up on the screen?
We can.
Wonderful. Okay, so if you're looking at this aerial, you'll see there's a parcel that's outlined in yellow, and there's a parcel that is outlined in blue. The parcel that is outlined in kind of the blue color, these are the 2 parcels that we're talking about here. This parcel has been operated historically as a Steak and Shake for as long as I think any of us can remember. And unfortunately, that Steak and Shake went out of business. I represent the Dubinsky Family Trust, who currently owns this property. They bought it, about 10 years ago. And unfortunately, the Steak and Shake went out of business, and this parcel is now sitting vacant. In the course of going to look at redevelopment options for this parcel, we discovered in working with the city that the parcels that are outlined in blue are actually still zoned residential, which is actually contrary to the rest of the zoning for the site, which is F residential, I'm sorry, which is F commercial residential. And so in working through this with them, we thought that the best option and sort of the best practices for cleaning this up would be to rezone these residential parcels to be consistent with the F commercial zoning of the other parcels, just to be able to consolidate this all and make this into one marketable tract. Frankly, the owner can't do anything with this. This is just the first step in the process. And I don't know if Mary Hartburton is on, but they looked at this and really nobody could figure out why it was left this way. It was just a long time. And because that Steak and Shake was there was no reason to do anything different. So what we're asking the committee to consider today is simply to rezone these 2 parcels from R to F neighborhood commercial. And that would give us the ability to consolidate those and then market that in the future. Obviously, this is a vacant, underutilized parcel at a major intersection. So anything that would go in there would be a great new development opportunity that could benefit the adjacent landowners. And what we're doing here is also consistent with a historic use as well as the city's strategic land use plan. So like I said, I'm here on behalf of the owners and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, Ms. Gosselin, I know you told us who your client was. Can you tell us what company you represent?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm with Armstrong Teasdale. So I'm the attorney for the owner.
Okay, thank you. You can stop sharing.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and take questions from members of the committee for the sponsor and or Ms. Gosselin, and we'll start with Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you very much. I have no questions.
Okay, Alderman Cone. Alderman Kotar.
No, I'm here, Mr. Chair.
Okay, see you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I had most of my questions covered during our planning commission meeting with this particular project, so I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Alderman Kotar.
No questions.
Okay, Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
No questions.
Okay, Alderman Muhammad. Alderwoman Martin.
No questions, thanks.
Alderman Narayan.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Evans.
I just have one, and that is, it used to be a Steak and Shake. What are the plans for it now?
So I can address that. There have been several plans considered. Currently today, we're not asking the committee to approve any particular use going forward. Basically, this is the first step in the process to get this to a marketable state. And the current owner is planning on retaining ownership. There has been, they are working lately with a potential car wash user, but like I said, this is the very first step in this process, and any use that the parcel would be put to going forward would have to go through all the approval procedures and proper zoning approvals anyway. So we're just asking for the rezoning to make these parcels consistent today, not any particular use.
Okay, thank you.
And Alderwoman Evans, just so you know, oftentimes when you can combine 2 parcels together that are mixed match, it's more marketable. And because one parcel may require a certain variance, whereas the other parcel does not, and you just want everything to be consistent where you don't have to jump through as many hoops. So it's always smart on us when wherever we can combine parcels and make them one category.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your explanation.
You're welcome. Alderman Stevens, you're recognized to close on Board Bill 189.
Thank you, Mr. Board Bill 189 really just sort of unifies this area with the full support of the Zoning Administration and the Planning and Urban Design Commission, the Planning Commission rather, so sorry. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to motion to proceed. I'm so sorry, I haven't had my coffee yet.
You would like to request that your bill pass out of committee with a due pass recommendation?
Yes, I'd like to request another cup of coffee, but in this moment, I'd like to request that it pass out of the committee with a due pass recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 189.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderman Cone,
Aye.
Alderman Coder,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Martin,
Aye.
Alderman Orion,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Chairman Boyd,
Aye.
8 aye votes.
By your vote, Board Bill 189 comes out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Next board bill before us is Board Bill 190, sponsored by Alderman Dan Guenther.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. You are recognized on Board Bill 190, sir.
All right, thank you, Chairman Boyd and members of the HUD's committee. Board Bill 190 is it's a ordinance that is recommended by the Planning Commission. It's to change a site at 2101 through 2113 Miami Street in the Marine Villa neighborhood from the J Industrial District to the F Neighborhood Commercial District. Currently, this property has been just kind of a shell of a building. It has about 5 garage bays, brick building with 5 garage bays, no roof. And so it's just been kind of an eyesore and a target of graffiti very much in the neighborhood. The developer is hoping to, by changing it to the F Neighborhood Commercial, to do a mixed use development on it, to where he'll be using the existing 5-bay garages, turning them into commercial properties, building a 2nd and 3rd floor residential above that property. And then in front of this, the existing building, it sits back on the alley, has a large kind of a large lot in front of it, to where they're hoping to put another residential and mixed use commercial building into it. So I do not have any speakers today. I don't know if anyone from zoning is here that can speak on it. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Okay, we don't have anybody from zoning. Mary Hartburn wasn't able to attend today.
Okay.
So we can move on. But I think Alderman Cone and myself might be able to bring clarity if necessary, since we sit on the Planning Commission. We'll go ahead and ask if there's any members of the committee that have any questions, and we'll start with Alderwoman Davis.
No questions, thank you.
Alderman Cone,
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alderman Kotar. Don't see him. Okay, Alderwoman Pam Boyd,
No questions.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Martin,
No questions. Thank you.
Alderman Orion,
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Evans.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Guenther, you're recognized to close on Board Bill 190.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I am very excited about this opportunity here, from taking a no roofed shell of a building that, like I said, is a target for graffiti and vandalism in the neighborhood, taking that from industrial purposes to a mixed use commercial and residential development. I think would be great for the neighborhood. So with that, I would like to ask for favorable consideration from the HUD's committee.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion on Board Bill 190?
I move the board bill 190 passes with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
It's been moved in second. Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 190 comes out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Next board bill before us is Board Bill 197, sponsored by Alderman Dan Guenther.
Thank you for 190. I do believe 197 is Alderwoman Martin.
Oh, okay, it sure is. I just saw your name at the end, so okay, we'll come back to that one then. Let's see here. We see Alderman Brandon Boxley. Don't see Alderman Boxley. Okay, we'll go back up to the top. Alderwoman Marlene Davis, you are recognized on Board Bill 188.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On board bill, oh, wait a minute. Can you still see me?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't see you all. Oh, that's gone. Okay. I would just like to ask the clerk to please read the preamble on Board Bill 190. On Board Bill, hello?
Yes, Madam Clerk?
Is it, I'm sorry, 188?
Yes,
188.
188, I'm sorry.
Okay. An ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on February the 9th, 2022 to change the zoning of property as indicated on district map from K unrestricted district to H area commercial district in city block 2196 so as to include the described parcels of land in city block 2196 and contain an emergency clause.
Thank you very much. As indicated in the previous board bills, we're talking about making sure that a parcel has the consistent zoning codes in order to move forward with a proposed development. It has another one of those opportunities that we probably will be doing a lot of in the future as we're trying to revitalize our city. And I just will open for any questions.
Okay, see, do we have any speakers on Board Bill 188? We do
Should
have
be
some,
one.
we do have Mr. Stock and look like Mr. Zikur, if I pronounced that right. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask them to speak, and then we'll come back and members of the committee can ask both the sponsor and the guest speaker. So I want to recognize Mr. George Stock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yep, thank you. Mr.
Okay,
I'm here.
Mr. Stock, do you promise, swear, or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Okay, so again, state your name and who you represent.
So my name's George Stock. I'm with Stock and Associates Consulting Engineers, and I am the civil engineer on behalf of Green Street, the developer of this particular property. And my address is 257 Chesterfield Business Parkway, and that's St. Louis 63005. I'd just like to thank Alderwoman Davis for her assistance and support on this project. And Mr. Bryce Zecker with HDA Architects, also representing Green Street, does have a brief presentation should the committee like to see that.
Okay, sure. Why don't you go ahead and make the presentation? That would be helpful.
If you could let Bryce, he would do that. Thank you.
I don't see Mr. Bryce. Is Mr. Bryce on?
He's there. I see him on the screen. Here we go.
I am here. May I share my screen?
Can we see your face, Mr. Say your last name?
Zicker?
Zicker. Okay. So, Mr. Zicker, do you promise, swear, or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Again, state your name and who you represent, the company you represent.
Bryce Zicker with HDA Architects, and I'm here representing Green Street Development.
Okay. You may share your screen.
Okay. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
See.
There should be a bird's eye rendering view that you're able to see. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to start first with the overall site plan. So basically the property or the area of interest is the corner of I-64 and Grand Avenue, just east of the Armory building. What we're looking at here and what we're concerned with mainly is a phase 1 development of a residential apartment tower immediately adjacent to Grand Avenue. We are also showing a potential phase 2 development and an extension of Market Street. The extension of Market Street would be part of the phase 1 development. So that's just a general orientation of where the project is. Next on your screen, you're going to see an aerial view looking from the northeast to the southwest. As I mentioned, the tower on the left-hand side, immediately adjacent to Grand Avenue, is part of the phase 1 development. It's comprised of a combination of studio dwelling units, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom dwelling units, atop a enclosed parking garage. There's a bridge link to Grand Avenue. The parking garage is accessed from Grand Avenue, but there's also an access to the parking garage off the Market Street extension, which you can't really see here because of the viewpoint. Another more pedestrian viewpoint of the same development. Conceptual schematic viewpoints of the building. Here we're trying to suggest various possible materials and cladding of the building. Right now we're looking at possibly some terracotta masonry in combination with textured metal panels and punch window openings. You can see that there is an amenity deck at the Grand Avenue elevation. Running through some floor plans. This would be the ground level at the Market Street extension where it intersects Scot Avenue. This is the grade level entrance to the parking garage. Various backup house and loading spaces are at this level. Ramps connect all levels of the parking garage, which I'll cycle through pretty quickly. And then we get to the fourth level, which is where the bridge access off of Grand is located. Again, the ramp to the parking garage is accessed this way. This is common area amenity space for the residents, a turnaround area and drop off for deliveries and such, and the amenity deck with the swimming pool is what you're looking at. And this is just a conceptual preliminary floor plate, L-shaped floor plate for the residential levels, freight elevator and passenger elevator located at either end of the bar. So that's sort of the development in a nutshell, and I'll try to answer any questions if I can. Any development related questions, I'll probably defer to some other attendees at the meeting.
Okay, thank you for sharing your screen.
Shall I stop sharing or shall I leave
Yes,
it up?
sir. You can stop.
I'll see if I can figure out how to do that.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find the stop share button.
There we go.
You good?
There we go. Thank you. Let's go ahead and take questions and comments from members of the committee. Alderman Cone, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to switch in between screens here on my phone. Sorry, I was looking at the presentation and then the attendee list. You know, I had the pleasure of being in the Planning Commission when this came before us with respect to the zoning changes here, and there were a number of concerns that I brought up at that meeting, and I'm not seeing those, you know, addressed quite yet in this, you know, plan that you're proposing. You know, I think that this is a very exciting project. You know, this is currently, you know, very underdeveloped area on a major corridor. You know, represents an opportunity for us to really do some transit-oriented development right. You know, but some of the things that I brought up during the Planning Commission, one of which was the egress on the property. You know, that section of Grand is very dangerous, particularly as you get to that, you know, I-64 interchange, and then just north of there is the interchange with Forest Park Parkway. You know, I don't see any kind of accommodations for that in this. Can you speak to that?
Alderman Cohen, this is George Stock. I'm happy to speak to this. So I didn't speak to this at the Planning Commission because I didn't have my notes in front of us, but we actually, Green Street and ourselves, met with the Streets Department BPS about 18 months to 2 years ago. We have re-kicked that since the Planning Commission meeting, and we have CBB engaged as a transportation consultant, and we actually have a scoping meeting with the City Streets BPS and MoDOT on Tuesday of next week. So we will be moving forward with the traffic study. But I think graphically, the issue you were concerned with was egress and compatibility with pedestrian and restricted access. We're taking all that into account. And again, our request today is, you know, really strictly related to the rezoning of the property. But we heard you loud and clear. And unfortunately, I did not have my notes of when that meeting took place previously. But we are pursuing that through the appropriate channels within the city of St. Louis and MoDOT for the access and safe ingress egress.
Sure, and thank you. I'm grateful that you guys are now moving forward with that, more aggressively with the BPS and Streets Department. I want to be clear, it's not just the pedestrian, cyclists, and Grand is the busiest bus route in the city of St. Louis, and there's as you're probably aware, a very large bus/Metrolink station just to the south of this development. But the vehicular traffic there, it's often confusing, and people will do U-turns right. There's a median that goes through Grand, basically along the bridge. That median ceases like right where you guys are talking about putting this development project in. And I know during planning, we talked about doing, right hand in, right hand out, egress on the project. The problem is that people will make a left-hand turn where they're not supposed to get into a right-hand turn only entrance and exit, because, God bless folks, they're just not, they don't think necessarily of the dangers or the safety of others around them when they're doing that. But I really have some strong concerns there. I've almost been in accidents at that intersection at the I-64 and the Forest Park intersections where people have gone the wrong direction, or they've tried to make U-turns where they shouldn't because they made a wrong turn somewhere else. So I want to be particularly sensitive to that, because it already is a fairly precarious and dangerous area in terms of I'm getting feedback. Is anyone else getting feedback?
Yeah.
I don't know if someone's not muted, or that's better. So I want to make sure that we're being very mindful of that as the project moves forward. The other item that I brought up at planning, and I'm not sure if you all have had discussions about it since then, but the accommodation of 3-bedroom units in the plan, because if I recall correctly, there weren't any. It was just studios, 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms.
So I do have a representative from Green Street participating, although he's not currently a panelist. Jerry Krylan is an attendee. Is there a way we can get him to speak as a panelist?
I would have to defer to the chair or the clerk.
Sure, STLTV, can you elevate him to a panelist? What's his name again?
Jerry Krylan.
Krylen should be showing up. Krylen.
Okay, yeah, see down at he should be up now. Mr. Krylan. I saw him disappear from the regular attendee list. Mr. Krylan, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
There he is. Good morning. Mr. Krylan, do you promise, swear, or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Okay, can you again state your full name and the organization that you represent?
Sure. Jerry Krylan, I'm Senior Vice President with Green Street Development in St. Louis. Our address is 4565 McCree Avenue. And thank you for allowing me to speak to this committee this morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. And it's with regards to specific questions posed by Alderman Shane Cohen on the 3-bedroom units. We have a demand study that we have done for this project through a third-party development initiatives out of who's done a number of our projects for us. We've shared that with Alderman Davis. The fact is that in this particular market, as the study has been done, there's does not show a demand for 3 bedrooms necessarily, but however, as we are programming the project here, we're always validating and sensitive to the market. And to the extent that there's a need for that at some point, we'll consider it. Right now we have the complement of 260 apartment units in the mix that you just talked about, studios, 2s, and 1 bedrooms.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that, but I've been down at the Board of Aldermen for about 13 years now. And I guess I should have first said, Green Street, you all have done some really amazing and transformative projects in the city of St. Louis. You've certainly received incentives for some of those projects as well. But not just with your projects, but with a variety of other particularly large scale developments in the Central Corridor. One of the things that I've observed is that there's a lack of 3-bedroom apartments. There's no shortage of families in the city of St. Louis. My ward alone, is 30% of them are underneath the age of 18. They're generally not living in a studio apartment or a 1-bedroom apartment. And it does seem as though most of the development in the Central Corridor is being geared specifically to keep families out of the Central Corridor. By targeting specific populations, whether those are empty nesters or students or what have you, and kind of the perception that families cause issues with rental properties, I think is pretty pervasive with these development deals. And you can sponsor a study and have them come back with whatever information that you think is going to be viable for you in order to support that perspective. But there certainly is a lack of multi-bedroom units in the city of St. Louis for rental that aren't single family homes. There's a huge need for them. I've had studies that have been done by more kind of neighborhood-based organizations that and Rise St. Louis has done these in the past for various projects that they've done, where there is a need for 2- and 3-bedroom units in the city of St. Louis. So I'd have to respectfully disagree with the assessment there, but it does feel like it's a more intentional act to try and keep families out of these projects that are being built in the Central Corridor. So, I mean, that's certainly something that I would like to see more of in terms of being inclusive of the needs of, families in our city, especially when we're talking about these, newer projects that are in the Central Corridor that are closer to resources, closer to amenities, because families do want to be next door to a grocery store or a movie theater. So I find it really kind of hard to believe that a study would come back saying that there's no families that want to live next door to a movie theater or an IKEA or a Target. So, that being said, thank you, for, being here. I'm also curious about, and this did come up at the Planning Commission, we didn't have a representative from Green Street at the Planning Commission, if I recall correctly. It was just the architect that was available, who just presented the overview of the project here. But during the Planning Commission, it was brought up, about the incentives, because this is in the, if I recall correctly, it's either in the Midtown 353 or in the SLU 353. So we wouldn't necessarily see incentives coming back before the Board of Aldermen, because it's in the 353 area. Do you anticipate having using incentives for this project?
First of all, thank you for your comments about the demand studies and all that. I mean, we've built a number of projects, and I appreciate you mentioning that, in the Central Corridor here. And each and every time, I think we take a very sensitive look to what is the immediate demand and the needs there. And we'll continue to do that as we invest more dollars in projects in helping St. Louis, raise all boats, and particularly in this growth area here. We're responding to kind of job growth and things like that we see in the area that come out of Cortex and out of the Foundry and other things from, St. Louis University's SSM's expansion, things like that. So I appreciate your comments to that. With regard to the question of the incentives, it is in the Midtown Redevelopment District, and we have had a number of conversations ongoing still with St. Louis, with the board for SLU and Midtown Redevelopment. They continue discussions on real estate tax abatement to help this project come to fruition.
Okay, so is it just tax abatement that you're looking at, or is there the possibility of a TIF?
We are not pursuing TIF.
Okay. So right now, the conversations that you've had are mostly just around the potential use of a tax abatement.
Correct.
I said potential. So, okay. And then, you know, as part of those conversations, has there been any analysis as to, you know, the profitability of the project, the need for the incentives? So, you know, like a but-for test or, you know, some sort of analysis that, you know, because I know with other projects that come before the Board of Aldermen and SLDC, you know, we use a model that kind of predicts future profitability for the project to determine what's the best amount of incentive. Is that
Yeah,
something
sure.
that you all are?
There's a particular detailed application and process that in filing for consideration of it with Midtown redevelopment, and we have submitted that to them. I believe we have support as well in the form of letters to this committee. I'm not sure if Brooks Gettiker, who thought he might be joining today, is on this call or not, but yeah, we have provided all that information, Alderman Cohen.
Okay. And then is there the opportunity or any discussions around a community benefit agreement with the use of incentives?
Not that I'm particularly aware of.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Alderman Davis.
Okay. I mean, those are a few of my questions. And I mean, I want to be clear, like I'm excited about these types of projects. You know, I think particularly, you know, as a young St. Louis, and I frequented this corner quite often. There used to be a gay bar called The Complex over at Choteau and Grand that I've spent probably too many nights at. But, you know, it's very exciting to see the growth and development here. You did mention, you know, earlier about the assessments that are being made in terms of the, you know, size of the units and whatnot. But some of the organizations that you mentioned, like SLU or Cortex or, you know, SSM, you know, they have people who have families that work in those places. And I'm sure that they would love to have an apartment that's closer to work, right? And so I find it really hard to believe that, you know, out of the, you know, 2,000 people that work at SSM, the, you know, 2,000 people that work at Cortex, the 2,000 people that work at SLU, and I'm just making those numbers up, but there's, you know, several thousands of people that work in those areas that none of them have families, right? And so,
yeah, no, I appreciate it. My reference to those was just the fantastic and enormous energy that's been driven by those projects. You know, the last 10 years really turned St. Louis around. Your comment about being new to St. Louis, it's putting it back on the map as it should be. It always has been, you know. So
yeah, no, and I know where you're coming from. I'm just trying to circle it back to, you know, the reason that those places are bringing in momentum are the employees that they have as well, because those employees are spending money in those areas and helping to generate revenue for businesses to open up and, you know, obviously development such as yours to happen. But they need a place to lay their head at night. And so having a, you know, 3-bedroom apartment where they can, you know, share with their family and, you know, walk to work would probably be something that they would really enjoy. So, you know, I'm again, you know, that's more me questioning the study that it was done versus anything. But it does seem, and, you know, I have friends that work at SSM. I have friends that, you know, work at SLU and they have families and, you know, they moved out of the city because they couldn't find, I mean, they live in an apartment out in Creve Coeur versus an apartment in the city because they couldn't find units that accommodated their needs, right? So oftentimes there's a 3-bedroom that's available in the city. It's usually a single family home, or, you know, it's something that may not have all of the amenities that these newer construction projects have. But that's all the questions that I had. You know, thank you so much, you know, for being here, Jerry, and you know, for the other folks as well that are part of your team. You know, I do think it's a wonderful project. I do have these concerns. I'll probably be voting present just because of that, especially with the outstanding issue around the traffic. That is very much a big concern for me as someone who's, been in near-death experiences at that intersection. I would just like to see a little bit more clarity on that. Unfortunately, we don't have that right now, so I'll probably be voting present. But
I do have some
wait.
clarity on both of those topics for you.
Let me say something real quick, Alderwoman Davis. I want to remind the committee that
I get that, and Alderman, I understand that this is a zoning matter. I get that, but it's just one of the many pieces. So you can remind the committee. I don't need to be reminded that this board bill is pertaining to zoning.
Yes, man. Thank you for allowing me to do that, Alderman Cone. Because we do have some junior aldermen on here, as well as some that are not on the committee. What's before us is a zoning bill. The development itself has a lot of moving parts. What's presented today may not end up being what's built 2 years from now. It's our responsibility to make sure that we parcel land out with the right zonings to maximize the use of that land for our citizens at the end of the day. So I'm just going to ask the committee if you can keep most of your comments to the zoning specifically, that would be helpful. Also, what's challenging is when we give an organization redevelopment rights, we've given up our right to decide how much tax abatement, how many years, what the TIF allocation is, and so on and so forth. That's out of our hands. So we can always ask a question. There's nothing wrong with that, but at the end of the day, we can do nothing about that. So that is what it is. So we have, in this committee, we have zoning bills, and then after a zoning bill, we may end up with a tax abatement bill that follows behind it, or TIF, or some other type of incentive bills where we just get to continue to talk about this process as it moves forward. But the first thing that has to be done is the zoning, because if you don't have the right zoning, everything else is moot. So for educational purpose, I just want to kind of put that out there. And again, just kind of ask if it's pertaining to zoning, let's ask those questions. Otherwise, we got a long agenda.
Yeah,
so,
and I thank you for the clarification, Mr. Chair. Obviously I'm aware of that, but specifically as it pertains to my vote for president, parking does become part of the zoning situation as well, and transportation related. So that's why I'm voting president. It's not necessarily related to the market study or the incentives and things of that nature. That's why I clarified that at the end of my questions there.
And I certainly can appreciate that. And please, let's not go back and forth, but I feel reasonably assured that Ms. Jennifer Walter Jones, who works for the street department, is very thorough in what she does. And they're very mindful, along with BPS, about all the traffic concerns. So I feel confident that they will work all of that stuff out. But you bring up an excellent point that I share those same concerns. So with that, I'm going to move on to Alderman Coder.
No questions.
Okay. Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
No questions.
Alderman Muhammad. Alderwoman Martin.
No questions, thank you.
Alderman Narayan.
Just a couple of questions here. Just out of curiosity, in your plans, are most of these units market rate units?
They are.
They are, okay. And then Alderwoman Davis, you had mentioned that there is some community benefits agreement in place in relation to this.
Yes.
Could you go into that a little bit?
Sure. So before we even started with any development processes with the 353 with SLU, we sat down with a group of individuals from all over the city that represents everything from MCU to the Minority Small Business Council, NAACP, you name it, they're represented, plus the residents from the residential area, which is Tiffany and Gate District, that are right adjacent to this overall development plan. And they worked for about 1.5 years on looking at the things that they wanted to have addressed as far as looking at good partnership, having support for neighborhoods, and their activities that are going on there, and also reaping some of the benefit from all of this development that will take place over a number of years. The very first and most important thing that was decided is that a percentage of the profits from the sale of the land to developers has been set aside and created a home repair program for those residents who have stuck with us in the city and may need a few things done, and that is moving forward. We're excited about that. Also, the residents in that area have a lot of input as far as what happens with these various developments. But we're also looking at the minority participation part of it. I think there were 13 accords that students were concerned about on the SLU campus. 4 of those were chosen by that group to make sure that they are addressed and supported by any development that happens there. We also have the opportunity there for residents to learn and be more adaptable to actually making all decisions. And so the very first one that we did is in Gate District West. The residents were the development committee for all that you see going on there. And that's where we address other things like larger family units over, and they chose their own design, they chose their developers, they did everything and they monitor it. So nobody's telling them what to do. Those are the things that were important to us. And they also wanted to make sure that there is a variety in that development that addresses low to moderate income and making sure that those things happen. So that's why you see a part of development that's going on now. There's habitat homes being built, and there are 3 and 4 bedroom homes. There's also condos that are 3 bedroom. We also have some apartments that are coming online too that will have some 3 bedrooms. We also have in the process there, they're making sure that as we move forward, we will continue to make sure that all of those different levels of income are addressed in any development that takes place. So we feel good about it, and the residents really feel good about having input in this, as well as all the other organizations at the table.
Thank you for that. And then I know that you all had said that the Midtown Redevelopment Corporation had looked at this. You've been in discussions with them. Do they share their analysis the same way that, say, like SLDC does? Would we be able to get our hands on that?
Well, that's another thing that I wanted to clear up too. So this particular project has been before SLDC. SLDC is extremely involved in the process, how it's moving forward. And I don't ever move forward without making sure that they are satisfied with how we're moving forward, even though we don't have to. Green Street has been before them, the entire team, the entire proposed plans, and will continue to work with SLDC.
And then, they mentioned that they did submit an application to the Midtown Redevelopment Corporation. Do we know what was requested in that application as far as the rate and length of any abatement that they are asking for?
We don't have that solidified at this moment because, again, whatever is asked for, we will still consult with SLDC. They have to consult with me and SLDC.
And forgive me for my ignorance here, but that's still the case, even though it's through that SLU 353.
It doesn't matter. That's the way we want it. That's the way the community benefit agreement states. That's the way the residents want it. That's the way I want it, and believe it should be done appropriately so.
Sure. Okay. Well then, I'm hoping that we can get some of those documents or get some of the what they're thinking at least in front of us as we get to this on the floor. I do understand what the chairman has said, that we don't want to delve too far maybe into the incentives.
We're only talking about zoning. We have a
zoning
long way to
meeting.
go.
Yeah,
We
and
got
so
a long way to go.
I just want to make sure that we as a committee and as a board aren't tying our hands behind our back on anything. And we're using all the tools that we have at our disposal. But with that, thank you for answering my questions. And that's all I have, Chairman.
You're welcome.
Okay, Alderwoman Evans.
Thanks to Alderwoman Davis and Alderman Boyd. They have clarified a lot of my questions, and I thank you for that.
You're welcome. I want to say to Alderman Ryan that I could certainly appreciate, the anxiety or the trepidation you may have to explore more of this maybe on the floor when it comes up to for perfection. However, I want us to be mindful of no matter what the request for incentives may be, it may not be worked out for a year. It may not be worked out for 6 months.
At least.
And so we don't know. And so one of the things we don't want to do is hold up legislation waiting for something else to happen that is not really germane to that piece of legislation. So I just want to just put that out there, that I want us to be mindful of that. Alderwoman Peel asked if she could speak. So Alderwoman Peel, I want to recognize you to speak on Board Bill 188.
Thank you, Chairman Boyd and members of the HUD's committee. I just wanted to speak in terms of just what are the questions regarding the 3-bedroom units. And I know that there is a necessity in St. Louis for 3-bedroom units. And I know that Mr. Krylan and the market study didn't see that was a necessity. But the Affordable Housing Report Card does see that as a necessity, that we do need more 3-bedroom units. So I just wanted to make that as a statement in terms of that.
Oh, well, you certainly affirmed what Alderman Cone was saying. So thank you for those comments. I'm going to recognize the sponsor, Alderwoman Davis, for her closing remarks and her motion on Board Bill 188.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I shall respectfully take just a very short moment to clear up some things and also ask for favorable consideration from this committee. For this immediate area in the 19th Ward, we have been addressing larger units for years. We also are currently addressing it every day with every project that we have that fits the need as far as affordability of the project and all of that. But we know that we need mixed developments around this city. Everything cannot be an affordable development. And I have, in 1 mile radius of this development, I have over 1,600 units that are affordable. And they include 3, 4-bedroom units. They come in the form of houses as well as apartments and condos. Just to name a few, in the Lucas Heights development, we have 543 units that afford you with 3 and 4 bedrooms at affordable rates. In Renaissance development, which is a mixed-use development, we have public housing units there, as well as affordable units there and market rate units. And again, actually, it's not even quite a mile away. In the Gate District, right there, we have habitat homes that have been built. We have townhomes that have 3 bedrooms. We have infill housing with 3 bedrooms. We just had our first unit done with a boxcar, and I'm very excited about that. So we don't have and in the Tiffany neighborhood, we did all of our infill for our lots that we had. So we have no more vacant lots in Tiffany. And all of those were done with Habitat homes that are 3 and 4 bedrooms. We're doing quite well in that area. And I encourage all other wards to do the same because we need this type of deliberate development done all over the city of St. Louis. And so I asked this committee to recognize that this is a zoning bill, and I ask you for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Alderman, would you like to make that in a motion?
I shall move to adopt Board Bill 190, excuse me, 190.
188.
My mind is just keep going back to that 190, 188 for favorable consideration. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we pass Board Bill 188 out of committee to do pass recommendation. Any objection to previous roll?
Object.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderman Cone,
Present.
Alderman Coder,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Martin,
Aye.
Alderman Ryan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Chairman Boyd.
Aye.
7 aye votes and 1 voted present.
By your vote, you passed Board Bill 188 out of committee to do pass recommendation. I want to apologize to Alderman Cone. He made it very clear he was going to present, but I got caught up in the moment. So thank you. Next board bill before us is Board Bill 196, sponsored by Alderman Peel.
Thank you, Chairman Boyd.
You're recognized. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Boyd and members of the HUD's committee. I am presenting Board Bill 196. It's an ordinance that is recommended by the Planning Commission. It is seeking a rezoning of Block 3918.03, which is the address of 3834 Forest Park Avenue and 200 South Van Vender. We're seeking a zoning change from Unrestricted K to Commercial District H to allow for commercial and residential housing. A developer, Aptitude Developers, would like to buy the property, but at this point in time, the property is not feasible for them to build student housing. And they would like to build some student housing on this particular property. This particular property is surrounded by the City Foundry, the firehouse, there on Van Vender and Forest Park. This particular block and lot and this address at this point in time, there's a gap if we do not rezone to H. And so what Aptitude Development would like to do is build 192 units of student housing. The building is called the Marshall. And what it would do is that this housing would fill the gap and would be incorporated into the City Foundry complex and that idea. I have 2 speakers that I'd like to bring forward, Chairman Boyd, with your permission.
Okay, who's the first speaker?
George Stock of Stock Associates. He can provide
Okay.
more.
And we've had him sworn in already. So Mr. Stock, if you want to make a presentation.
Yeah, I would like to, Mr. Chairman, and also joining me in the presentation is Mr. Jason Lutz with Kitchen Associates, the architect. So it might, so that the presentation.
Okay, I'll go ahead and swear him in. Thank you. Mr. Lutz, do you promise, swear, or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, I have 2 other people. Do I need to do them as well? Jared Hutter and
Yes, sir.
Brian Rosen. Will they be speaking?
Well, they're available to answer questions, Mr. Chairman, so it's probably a good idea to swear them in.
Okay, don't see them. Let me slide over here.
I see Mr. Feldman, and they all may be in his conference room. Mr. Feldman, Mr. Rosen, Mr. Hutter, all with Aptitude.
Okay, Mr. Feldman,
Yes, sir, I'm here.
I can't see you.
Is this better?
There you go. Now,
I
do
heard
you
him
have
too.
Mr. Hutter and Mr. Rosen with you?
No, I will be representing Aptitude today.
Okay, so do you promise a fair or swear? Do you promise a fair or, oh goodness. Promise, swear, or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Mr. Stock, whoever's gonna do the presentation. You guys
Okay.
are all sworn in.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. We're going to share the screen here. Just take a moment to get that up. Okay, so you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and thank you very much, Alderwoman Peel, for those opening remarks. We certainly appreciate your support. As Alderwoman Peel mentioned, the development is called the Marshall. It is a proposed private student housing. Alderwoman Peel mentioned 192 units, and that's the number I gave her. We're between 192 and 182 units. It is 510 beds. There's 300 parking spaces, and it is located at 3834 Forest Park Avenue, which is 1.805 acres. And as Alderwoman Peel indicated, our request before the committee is to rezone from the K unrestricted to the H area commercial district. And city staff has also added the fire station number 2, which is at the corner of Van de Venner and Forest Park to the request. The owner under contract is Aptitude St. Louis, Mr. Jared Hutter, Mr. Brian Rosen. You just swore in Mr. Zach Feldman, and then Mr. Jason Lutz is with Kitchen Associates. They are the architect, and then we at Stock and Associates are the civil engineer. This is a cover sheet of the package, which generally just gives you the location again. The foundry surrounds the property to the south. The foundry surrounds the property to the east. The standard, which was built several years ago as student housing, exists to the north, and then to the west, I'm sorry, is IKEA. So the site is outlined in red on this attached survey. It's approximately 1.805 acres. The fire station, what's been mentioned, is right on the corner of Forest Park Avenue, Van de Venner. The site itself is currently Crescent Electric Supply. It's been there for probably 30, 40 years. This is the building. It has a surface parking lot that fronts Forest Park Avenue, and it also has a access and drive that is adjacent to Van de Venner. Again, the foundry is to the south and to the east. Under the redevelopment, this site would be raised and constructed as a 7-level building, of which the first level is partially buried, and a garage it would be accessing from Van de Venner and accessing from Forest Park, both vehicular as well as pedestrian. So Marshall superimposed. So this is a bird's eye view, basically from the southeast looking northwest. So the foundry, as you can see, surrounds it to the south and to the east. There's the standard multifamily to the north, and then the IKEA building to the east. This is another view of the facility, basically from the west looking east downtown. So the arch, again, the foundry immediately to the south. And this location's previously been before you. It's a 14-story building that they're getting ready to commence construction. IKEA, and again, in proportion to the standard. And then obviously St. Louis University, which is to the north. At this point, I'm going to ask Jason Lutz to kind of describe the architecture and go from there. Thanks, Jason.
Great. Thanks, George. That's such a great introduction. Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Lutz. I'm an architect at Kitchen Associates, representing Aptitude Development and working with George Stock and Stock Associates to help bring this project to reality. It's a great project. We believe and feel very strongly that for the city of St. Louis, helping to support a lot of the revitalization and redevelopment of what's happening in the city. As George mentioned, this is a 7-story building. The lowest level is partially subterranean, and the first 2 levels of the building are actually parking. George, can we scroll down to the floor plans? We'll walk up to the floor plans for a second. So the parking garage provides access off of Van de Venner, as well as a secondary access off Forest Park, utilizing an existing curb cut, and then proposing a new curb cut on Van de Venner. Providing access to both levels, and the primary amenity space and first floor entry level of the building, however, happens on Forest Park Avenue. Congruent and consistent with what's happening on the streetscape across the way on the standard, as well as what's happening with the foundry to the as you're heading more towards downtown and the arch. leasing office, as well as primary clubhouse amenities in a fitness center, sort of are speculated and centralized to be on the ground floor. And those would be fenestrated on the outside with a commercial street front and streetscape experience that is something consistent and congruent with what we believe the city of St. Louis is looking for. As you go up, then we get to standard residential floors. They become fairly consistent with the exception of the floor plan, the second floor here that George scrolled down to. There is a small annex of the ground floor amenities on the second floor that provides access to an interior courtyard that is contained within the building. That is the courtyard shown there where it says amenity courtyard is open air. So that is a hole in the building, and the building effectively creates a donut, and units are wrapped around that, and they have views to the interior and then views that are exterior that overlook the city foundry, they overlook Forest Park, and then provide views also looking north towards SLU, as well as the upper end of Forest Park and Forest Park itself. Once you get to the third floor, the upper floors become standardized with units all the way up. George, can you go back to the rendering, the streetscape rendering, please?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So you can see here the building, everything that I had spoken about regarding the building floor plans. This building here is, it is to engage the street and to create a really visual, high visual experience, not only for the vehicular, on a vehicular perspective, but also on the pedestrian. The point is to engage, and the point is to create place, and that is what we're trying to do here. And as George mentioned, this is private housing, but at the same time, it's housing, and it's a big building, and it has to make place inside of the city of St. Louis, and we can't negate those things. So, the materials that we're thinking about are more denser materials, a mix of masonry and fiber cement, commercial storefront along the primary street frontage on Forest Park. We also have a mix of metal paneling and sort of proposed right now, and these are all possibilities of materials. Obviously design is iterative, and as we continue to refine it, we're going to do our best to try to maintain some of these things. But ultimately, the building here we think fits very, very well within the context and fabric of the city, and also provides a very energetic direction for the city to go in the future as inspiration for other development and redevelopment that's happening in this area.
So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our presentation, and I can stop sharing if you'd like, or go to different slides if somebody would like to see those.
If you can stop sharing, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, let's go down and ask if any members of the committee have any questions. Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just kind of wanted to ask, because I thought I heard it say student housing project. Is that true? It's
yes.
Student?
Yes, ma'am. Private student housing. Yes.
Private student housing. So when we look at a development like that, we would not look at it in the same consideration you would look at renting apartments, because you're actually just renting beds. Do you consider those apartments?
I will ask Zach to answer that question. Zach Feldman.
Yep. So thank you for the question, Alderwoman Davis. So we do rent by the bed, but they are apartment units.
Yeah, the structure is structured for convenience of living, but technically it is an individual who rents a bed with amenities.
Correct. It is rented by the bed.
Okay. Because it's a difference when you look at a development like that. You can't use all the same standards that you would use with looking at the demographics of rental units, regular apartment rental units. That's why I wanted to make sure I heard you right. Okay.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Feldman, just as a norm, when we make presentations, we like to show our video, just so we have you on record speaking.
Sure,
okay.
My apologies. Yep.
Thank you. That's okay. Alderman Coulter. I'm sorry, Alderman Cone. Alderman Cone.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I don't really, I mean, first I have to say, like, the standard that's kind of across the street from this project is by far probably one of my least favorite new constructions in the area. So I don't think that it should be held as the standard for development and the city anywhere really. But glad that you all are, you know, incorporating, more, you know, masonry and other items into, you know, the facade of the project. You know, my colleague from the 19th ward kind of hit on the student housing, so I don't have to repeat my drum beating about the 3-bedroom units and whatnot. But you know, and also I don't share the same concerns with this project as I did with the last in terms of egress. So, you know, I thank you for coming before us. I'm supportive of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Kotar.
No questions.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
I was going to ask the question that Alderman Cone had asked earlier in regards to the bedrooms. And so it seems as though it's not even focusing on families, it's just focusing on students. So I have no other questions.
Okay, Alderman Muhammad. Alderwoman Martin.
Thank you. I'm sort of in line with the student housing. You know, I just worry, and I see this in other college towns, if the sort of luxury student living, if the bottom falls out, and I think that higher ed is going to change over time and how we approach that. I just wonder what's going to happen to all of these that are sort of customizable. And I may disagree with my colleague about families wanting to live in high rises in St. Louis when we have other more suburban type living in St. Louis City, but I wonder what's going to happen with these that are so specifically built to house students. So I don't oppose it. I just am throwing that out there as just thinking in the future. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Narayan.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Evans.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, I want to echo something my colleague from the 25th said, Alderman Cone. The building across the street is my least favorite building built in the city of St. Louis for new construction as well. I really appreciate the curb appeal that the proposed building that you guys have. It makes it really look vibrant. So I just want to compliment you guys on that. There was an interesting comment about if the bottom falls out as far as education, since you guys are pretty much doing this as student housing. Do you guys foresee, if that happened, that the complex would turn into transitional housing based on how it's designed?
Sure, it's a great question. So we feel very confident about, you know, the student housing space and the need for student housing in the area. That was originally what drew us to this part of St. Louis. We've looked at you know, many colleges around the country, and we feel that this one has a great need for additional student housing. The building can be used for market rate tenants, and it is available to anyone in the community that would like to live there. But from a design standpoint and the programming of the building, it caters more towards the student demographic due to the location.
Right. Location, location, location. Money, money, money. Gotcha. I have no further questions or comments. Alderwoman Peel, you want to close on Board Bill 96?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the HUD's committee. I support Board Bill 196, and I appreciate you listening to the comments regarding this particular proposal. I think that this particular development is going to be great for the city and for the ward, as this will close a gap here in this section of the ward, and it will fill that all in. I ask for the committee's favorable consideration for this board bill to pass out of the committee.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 196. Would anybody like to make a motion to pass Board Bill 196 out of committee to do pass recommendation? I will. I move that we pass Board Bill 196 out of committee with due pass recommendation. Unfortunately, it did not get a second.
Second.
Who second? Okay, it's been moved by myself, a second by the Alderman from the 24th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis,
Wait a minute, I gotta get my stuff up. Aye.
Alderman Cone,
Aye.
Alderman Coder,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Martin,
Aye.
Alderman Ryan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Chairman Boyd,
Aye.
8 aye votes.
Okay, just for educational purposes, had the bill not received a second, the bill would have died in committee. So, moving right along.
Thank you, Chair.
Congratulations, Alderman.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next bill before us is Board Bill 208, sponsored by Alderman Brandon Boxley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. And yourself, sir?
Well, we woke up this morning. As long as we're doing that, we got one more day to figure out how to get it right.
Another great day to be here, sir.
That's right.
You are being recognized on Board Bill 208, sir.
Thank you. Board Bill 208, I will try to keep this as respectful as I can be. I know there is a lot that comes with the racial conversations that St. Louis has neglected for a very long time. The intent today is not to go through that. The intent today is in no way, shape, form, or fashion to put my colleagues in a 10-hour-long meeting or anything like that. Of course, you probably wouldn't have that go on either way. But you know, even if you would, I just want to make it clear that that this board bill is not the way that it's written intended to be something that is made to shame anyone or make our I try to keep it all the way 1,000, make my my colleagues or any colleagues. I'm not trying to arouse any type of inner anger or bring anything to anybody where we feel that we point the finger at folks. So this is a very, very touchy subject. So before I touch on it, it's just very important to make sure that you express your intent. And my intent specifically is just to do exactly what the board bill says. Board Bill 208 is just a fund that allows individuals to donate to this fund if you so feel like you would like to. Right now, if you go to Snooks, if you go to certain grocery stores, places like that, you have folks saying you pay $1.99 for something and you give them $2 and you want to donate that one extra cent for St. Jude or for cancer or this or that. This is simply saying when you go and you overpay on your water bill or certain bills within the city, after the city has had everything, you can actually say now I can designate a few extra dollars now to this fund that particularly is supposed to serve those individuals in the city that we know has a history, that we know have a history, that we know has a history of enslaving individuals and unjust treatment amongst human beings here within the city of St. Louis. And to this day, people are victimized and still we feel the rippling effects of what has occurred here hundreds of years ago. So with that being said, the individuals that now are living today, I'm not a slave, but I am and have been a slave of the mind here in this city. And that is the truth. I live in this city and have lived in this country, unfortunately, in one of the most dangerous areas in the entire United States. We just had another article came out right here at the end of the year that says St. Louis was #1 again in homicides. When you look at certain areas that represent the most dangerous areas in the city that's supposed to represent the most dangerous place in the United States, you see wards like mine, which is #1. I won't go into everybody else's ward, but that's nothing by coincidence that has happened in this manner. And I want to make it clear that all of the other people across the entire United States are trying to figure out how it is that we help these individuals that have been unjustly treated. Everybody across the United States is trying to figure out how to capitalize off of the information that we have to give. I live it every day. Every single day, I'm out here with the worst of the worst, if what the United States analytic data would call it. These are my people. And we are not the worst of the worst. We are unskilled. We are divided. We have been conquered. We have been mistreated, undervalued. Many, many other things. All we are asking today, all I'm asking today, all of the individuals that look like me, live the life that I have lived. Once again, I want to put that out there. I'm amongst the worst from what the data says. We real killers out here. The worst in the United States, we have the highest crime per capita, murder per capita, shootings per capita. I live with my people every day and I know what we're going through. There is not a progressive on this planet that can go out here and direct my hood or my city, because there is a North City and a South City. And we need to make that clear. It shouldn't have been like that, but it was made like that. And the people that perceived this board made it like that. Once again, to be clear, I am not in no shape, form, or fashion blaming the board members here. But those folks that perceive these individuals that are here today have helped create the laws that exist today, that we now are saying need to be changed, or we need to be, it needs to be some type of equitability along what has been done versus what needs to be done. We created the problems that exist within this city. The people that exist here have done nothing but more than what they've been doing here since you all have come to this country, before it was owned by America. This was part of the Louisiana Purchase. Now, according to the Louisiana Purchase, there was 66,000 slaves. 66,000 on record that they recorded when they got here, when they actually sold this in 1803. So when you get down to the amount of sex that we didn't have, and amount of folks that you forced to breed, not you, but the amount of folks that was forced to breed, it's hundreds of thousands of us that even to this day run away from the census because we don't want to get put on record. My people are here in abundance, and we are hiding because we are subject to the laws that exist within this state and within this federal government that never seems to be equitable for people that look like they're of darker hue. We've never, since the existence of St. Louis, since it's been incorporated, had 14 black aldermen and 14 white ones, so we can have a sophisticated conversation where there's real equitable, not equal, but equitable votes. Never. We're getting ready to reduce the Board of Aldermen while we got millions of dollars coming to the city, and there's nowhere left to be built but the north side of St. Louis. And to this day, we've done nothing to say to these black men, women, children who we've hung in these streets. My people are getting shot down every day. Every time I walk outside my door, I have to look in my gangway with my pistol on my hip to make sure that somebody that looked like me is not there to rob me because of what you robbed us of. You robbed us of education. We couldn't learn in this city. We got beat for reading books. Imagine that. Imagine this day where we live in the north side of St. Louis and we have the lowest IQ for these children out here reading at certain grade levels. And you wonder why. Because their mothers and fathers have told them, you don't show how intelligent you are. Because when you do that, you get beat. We come from a long line of when you have to hide. We run when we can do better. That's why everybody runs from the hood when they can do better. You made white right and black darkness. Everybody is afraid of the dark because you can't see. We can't wait to turn on the light. We can't wait till the sun comes up every day. And then my people in my neighborhoods are afraid when that sun comes up because we can't wait till it goes down because we don't know, are we gonna be alive when it sets? I'm a young man from generations of thousands of individuals who were looking for a leader who was not afraid to step up to the plate and do something about the conditions that exist around us, while individuals who worked to ensure we lived in those conditions put the feet on those individuals' necks who wanted to fight for those people who were unjustly treated. St. Louis has never given us nothing. We still got a French name. We out here fighting for St. Louis City and it's French. French. My people are dying every day. You look at how many homicides and shootings happen in this city. It's people that look like me that's doing the shooting, and it's ones that look like me that's getting shot. You want to change this city? You want to do something about the conditions that exist? Then you got to pour into the people. You got to look at the history of why we have generational incarceration. Why is cousins, uncles, aunties, brothers, and sisters in the jail together? Because we don't have what's necessary to break that divide that's needed to educate the individuals who come after the ignorance. My people willfully have played into the programming that white people, not all, but the white people of this country who control the media, the music, because that's a part of the media, the entertainment, all those individuals out here that we have been looking up to, NBA players, whatever you want to twist it or call it, the people that we look up to have been manipulated and muzzled by contract to not come out in our communities and speak and put into us and pour into us and give us the energy needed to become what we need to become. So we're not out here being the dolphins. We're not out here being the beggars on the street, not out here being the individuals implicated in sucking this country dry by not having. We're not the ones that's on EBT and federal assistance, government assistance in abundance. It's 14% of us in this country, period. We ain't doing nothing but trying to get our shirt. And we deserve it. We deserve it. Y'all run around here and try to fix these bricks, but we don't talk about who made them. Who y'all think was out here slaving in these brickyards getting all this clay? It sure was not white people. It was not red people. And I'm not saying it wasn't Indians. I'm just saying when white people get red, you know, I'm just keeping it 1,000. Look, I cannot do nothing but be real about this conversation. I'm not trying to dig too deep because we'll be here all day, but man, look, we've done nothing for my people. We've done nothing, and not just for my people, for Indians, for the Mexicans, for the Asians, for the Bosnians. We ain't done nothing for nobody. But soon as the Afghanistanians have a war that we created, we want to open up doors and say, let's give them thousands of dollars. What about the Blacks and the Mexicans and the Asians and the Bosnians that's been here for years? What about us? We've got nothing from this city, but the city is open to give everybody who does not live here a place. And I'm not saying the Afghanistanians don't deserve a place, because you too are a minority in this city. And I also appreciate you being here, because when it comes down to us being able to be a minority fighting together, we all we got. If it's just 1,000 of y'all here, you better click up with some Black folks and some Asians and some Bosnians and some Mexicans, because that's all we got. There are 6.187 million people in Missouri. Let's be exact, let's be frank, look it up. We got about 700,000 Blacks, somewhere around 11%, 11.7, 2.2 of other races. And we've done nothing to help these individuals that have been unjustly treated through racism. We're one of the most racist states in the entire United States. So before I go further, one of the things I want to read to you from one of the former slaves here. His name is, give me 1 second. You can look him up yourself when you get the time. I'm gonna take about 2 minutes to read this, and then we're gonna go, because this is all part of the board bill. The East entrance to St. Louis Courthouse, this was here on those steps. The slaves were often sold. St. Louis was the biggest slave market in Missouri. Did you hear that? The biggest slave market in Missouri. Look it up. St. Louis was the biggest slave market in Missouri. Let's keep rolling. Slave patrols operated through the city, constantly on the lookout for runaways and unlawful conducts by slaves. You wonder why we're afraid of the police? Because the police was created to capture us, lock us up, throw away the key, while y'all told them that Negro there is not a free slave. He actually looked me in my eyes the other day and I didn't like it. Somebody needs to do something about that. That's messed up, man. We couldn't look y'all in the eyes, bro. We couldn't look our heads up in this city. St. Louis was the most trafficked slave city in Missouri. Once again, look it up. We're not gonna play with my people today. Y'all patrolled us to make sure our behavior was up to standard. Unlawful conduct by slaves. What the hell is an unlawful conduct by a slave? Right? But we're gonna get even deeper because you know, I want y'all to know we got these archives, and I ain't gonna dig into them yet. We're gonna hop on that on the floor. We got some, but either way, if it merits it, I just want us to get through things. Now, I just want to be clear. The people here in America that are white are not the only individuals that were involved in the slave trade. So St. Louis itself, or of course, slave trade started in 1619. St. Louis was not sold through the Louisiana Purchase until 1803. And I want to make sure that's correct. I'll look that up, but I believe it's 1803. But before that, the slaves, there were slaves already here. Slavery already existed through the French. I just want to make that clear. But the French were white also. They also were German. All of those different things. We be out here blaming just the white Anglo-Saxons and never blamed other people. The Arabs were also a part of the slave trade. I want to make sure that's clear. It is not just white people who enslaved you, hung you up by trees. The Arabs actually castrated Black people as soon as they got over to certain parts of their country and ensured they could not procreate. They didn't do none of that bull breaking. They cut you off and made sure that you had no lifeline. So as we go and dive into this, I'm not going to dive deep into that stuff, but I just want to make it clear. It's not just white people who are guilty of this. And I want to make sure that the Africans in Africa right now know that you also were a part of the slave trade, because y'all, I'm not going to curse, y'all went out there and captured us. You actually captured particular people, Black folks. So that's the reason why y'all don't mess with us in Africa. It's the reason why y'all don't try to treat us a certain way. And I'm not smiling, but I get it though. It is what it is. We all trying to figure this thing out. But your ancestors captured us and gave us to these people who did everything that's been done to us, and we try to act like it's just the white folks. Hell no, it ain't just the white folks. It's a whole lot of you Africans too. Y'all owe us, period. And once we figure this out, we gonna come for y'all too. Everybody owe us. Give me 1 second. Just get into a particular place. All right, the colored are mulatto people of antebellum St. Louis. In 1791, there was a sizable mulatto population in St. Louis, 98 total, with 23 being that was taking place, but we'll go through it. While the strict definition term of mulatto signifies one mixed of white or Black ancestry, it is known that some mulattoes had some Indian blood. Of course, we were mixed to some degree. There were Indians here before there were ever white folks. There was significant interbreeding between Blacks, Indians, whites, and in certain segments of colonial society, there were the fringes of the frontier. In Missouri, the term mulatto and color tended to be interchangeable, often simply meaning being light brown, yellow skin tone, or assuming to be one of the mixed white Black ancestry. Having at least 25% of Black heritage could condemn oneself to being a slave, but the situation becomes quite complicated when the percent is not known or multiple grandparents are from minimal Black ancestry. Some slaves in the antebellum society literally were indistinguishable from free whites in appearances. Fancy female slaves with golden curls, light eyes, and complexions fetch exuberant prices at slave markets. When you dig into how we all were treated, if you just had, once again, just a little bit of Blackness in you, it's so many individuals in this city that are from a different hue that probably 9 times out of 10 did what they can identify as white just so they could survive this far. This city was messed up, man. And I mean, the history, as you go through it, history, Mr. James Walker, once again, this is a slave, this is a notable slave. Mr. James Wells Brown. Once again, you can go through this, man. I will go through it if I need to. But this city has we all know, man, it has a terrible history, but we don't dig into that history. We can go super deep into it if we need to, but I don't believe that this is one of those days. And I do believe that the individuals that are on this committee, believe in this day and age, there is something that probably needs to be done to some degree to at least have a starting point. And that's all this does. We're not saying in this particular board bill, and let me get to the board bill itself. I want to create 2 funds. The first fund is that Reparations Fund. This is not a fund particularly that has a setup on how people get money. So when you ask me questions, you're trying to figure out how you're going to get these dollars and how you're going to figure out who's Black and who's not. Hey, we ain't got time for that today, period. That's not what this is set up to do, period. There has to be different ways this conversation comes about. And if we start to set up and implement who's Black, who's not, who's went through this and who's went through that, we will forever be arguing on how those particular things manifest. What's important is for us to put a starting point. What's important is for us to say, hey, once we figure it out, we got something for you. For all these years, we ain't had nothing for nobody. We all know we descended from somewhere, period. But for years, we ain't even had nothing. If somebody gave us $1 today, we'd have 1,153,000 Black people saying, give me half a cent or quarter of a cent, but I need my piece. You know, there's nowhere at all in this city where it is set up to help Black folks who identify as the individuals who are victims for what these people did to us, where there's an account where individuals know that this is something we collectively are working towards as a city, rectifying. Because there is going to come a time for reconciliation. Just in 2021, you can go look it up. The Catholic Church, the Jesuits, they just offered up $100 million for slavery victims. You know, and that's not a lot of money. I mean, God, that's minimal. But the point is, you have individual institutions that are out here saying, hey, we did something, let's try to do something else. And us as a city, all I'm saying is with the reparations account and this Midwest land account, all we're doing is setting up 2 individual funds. And we're saying that for the individuals out here, just like you go to St. Jude, not St. Jude, you go to Snooks and you pay this or that. You can do that same thing when you're gonna pay your taxes. When you go pay your taxes.
Hello.
Cut off. Can you hear me? This is why
We can hear you
sometimes I'm
now.
walking around because my signal it's back snowing outside. The office is getting worked on. I'm sorry. Can you hear me good? My apologies. I may have to walk around while doing this if my signal drops, just so I can keep picking up bars. But basically this is just a fund setting up an account where individuals who would like to pay into a fund that directly can start going to some sort of a organized plan, because that's the first thing we got to do. We got to plan, but there is no money for planning. Think about that. We've never had a dime out here to plan for how these individuals have been affected. We've never had a dime to plan for how we could effectively impact these folks either. You got to plan first. So if I'm not coming up with some dollars to plan, then whatever the plan is will never ever manifest based on us not having any analytical data on what that plan could do. We got to create a plan first, so before that plan is existing, we got to have some dollars for the individuals to take their time out to do that plan. There's been plenty of things done throughout the United States for individuals that have been impacted by slavery for this or that, but St. Louis is different. All of our conditions are different. We all are messed up in different ways. We all have been impacted different ways. So with that, this is a different city, and we need a different type of innovative way to help these different people here, because they are saying we number 1 in homicide. And if we number 1 in homicide, you got to know we number 1 in psychological differences. Because we ain't just out here killing people just for the hell of it. We got some things that we need to help ourselves with, and we need dollars to be able to create a plan that actually works, that we can look at and say year by year, this hasn't worked, this isn't working, but we haven't even had dollars to be able to have that conversation yet. Because when it comes down to us creating a plan, somebody gonna have to take the time out to do that. We're gonna have professionals that do it, because everybody in this board of aldermen is gonna ask, well, what doctor wrote this up? What educated individual wrote this up? Who did this? Who did that? And those educated individuals who are now working for the same institutions and folks out here that enslaved them are every day trying to figure out how to make a dollar, make it make sense, so they can give us free time to come over here and figure out what we can do to kind of help them, or kind of help the agenda for Black folks. So this is intended to just create the account. This is intended to just say, hey, we recognize something happened. We have the ability to create an account. We also have the ability to overpay if we'd like to. And if that's the case, and we pay all our bills in the city, and somebody say, I want $20 extra to go to the Reparations Fund and the Midwest Land Development Fund, then there it is. That's 20 extra bucks. And that white person or Black person or whoever goes down in history now on record from this city as putting something forth from their family saying, I gave something back. Maybe it's 20 bucks. maybe that's all you have, because there's poor white people out here too. We all ain't just white and black and doing bad because we black. Believe that. You know, there's some great white folks in my community, love them to death. They're just as poor as my folks out here. Me, man, I'll go to bat for them. And, you know, I'm just putting it out there. So with that being said, them my folks too. So everybody deserves a place in being able to give what it is they can give. And with that being said, we need to have a place for those individuals to be able to say, I gave what it is that I have. You know, as we continue to have this conversation throughout the United States, we even got our president looking at these particular things. And if those are the things that we're looking at, then as a city, we always talking about getting in line with state and federal statutes and this and that. This is no different than getting in line with the president's agenda. And it's about time. The Midwest Land Development Fund, that is a fund that I'd like to create specifically for the city residents to start developing on spaces that we can collectively create and develop on. So that land development fund coincides with the I'm sorry, what is this? The Reparations Fund. My apologies. It coincides with the Reparations Fund, but it's for land development in particular. You know, the Reparation Funds gives us the ability to help people, you know, who don't have the ability, once again, you know, and we'll write this up and have much more meat to it, but I need to make sure that at bare minimum, there's some money going to the planning, and that's what we don't have. You know, so we're just simply setting up the account. So as we create a more robust program, we have professionals with the ability to do those particular things. You know, and we're able to at some point in time say, we do got maybe, you know, $1,000 or $2,000, whatever it is, to be able to create this plan that becomes what it is, this next step, and step after that, and step after that will be. There is no way that this has been done, that's been proven throughout the United States to actually work and change the minds of folks. But in this particular city, that is one of the things that we need. We have to pour into the people. We can go out here and build all the properties we want, but if my people are not being poured into, you're just gonna move into North County. And you know what's gonna happen when we get moved to North County? We're gonna come here, watch the city get built up, and come rob everybody. Period. That I can promise you. Unfortunately, that is the way that things go. We get moved from here or there, but we don't end up with any more different skills, no more opportunity. We go from here to there, North County, North City, South Side. That's why some of the South Side now is getting the same problems. We got some of the white aldermen dealing with the same problems that some of the black aldermen are dealing with. But just realistically, if you look at the statistics and look at who's doing the crimes over there, they look like us. That's only because we moved from the North to the South. We got no different skills. We still robbers. We still this, we are still that. We still are uneducated just because we moved from here or there. Our people who are educated regardless of where they move to. If you're a doctor, you're gonna be a doctor on whatever side of town you move on. If you're a lawyer, you're gonna be a lawyer no matter where side of town you move on. If you're a killer, you're gonna be a killer no matter what side of town you move on. So what we're doing is kind of playing musical streets and going from place to place, running away from our own issues. And everybody is staying in kind of this regional area, and we're not pouring into the people. We're not making sure folks got the skills. While we got all these billions of dollars we getting ready to put out, what are the programs for tree cutting that we can make sure folks become the best tree cutters in the city? We're looking at probably outsourcing stuff from a whole nother state, whole nother city, and we're gonna end up with folks from Joplin and everywhere else to come make all these dollars. And we got all these folks in these communities out here that can easily, while they hiding behind these trees, cut them down. And I'm not saying that this particular fund is for that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we have been pouring into people. Not pouring into people, we've been pouring into things, not people. We've been funding things, funding buildings, not actually making sure that we grow the actual human workforce here, the human capital here. So with that being said, this fund particularly is only just to set up these accounts. We will come back and make this more robust. I don't have all the answers, nor am I supposed to have all the answers. This, you know, I've only been here for 33 years, 34. You know, there's no way I can have all the answers. It's just, if it was something that could be answered, then you have so many examples of the way to do this that it already be done, working, and there'd be some way where we can measure the data that says this is changing people's lives. There is no one way to make this happen, but there is a way to get the process started where we can create something that gets the individual's minds here thinking that there's something on the horizon. And as we walk towards this direction, towards this path, we get to see more of what is on that horizon. As the hill becomes higher, we get to look down on the sunset, and we got to walk up that hill first. And that 1,000 miles start with one step. And that one step is at least establishing something somewhere for individuals to put something that they would believe to be something that is supposed to be set up to affect thousands of us in a pot where they can say, hey, I'm trying. Let the leaders of these Black communities go, we keep saying, Black folks keep on saying, white folks can't tell us what to do, yada, 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 all these other things. And it's like, okay, well, what can we do to help them? And at this point, it's like, we don't have a mechanism set up for you to be able to help. And that's just the truth. So with all these things being said, we got to have something to where we are in control of, to where folks can say, hey, we tried, gave you this, we did this. This is what happened. This is one of those times. So with that being said, I will turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman. I ask for your favorable consideration. I know you got to ask questions, but I'm turning it back to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Boxley. Let's go down the road. Alderwoman Davis.
Okay, I just have a couple of questions. One is, has the comptroller's office been advised of this bill?
No, ma'am. So I did not contact the comptroller's office or the mayor's office, just realistically for deniability. I don't want anybody to feel pressured or anytime. I'm trying to, and just being real. It sounds weird. I'm just trying to protect everybody. I don't want to be having backdoor conversations and folks to feel like, I've talked to this person or that person. I'm just simply trying to just create that account and do something that's legally, available to do, pretty much. So, no, ma'am. Just to be short, I have not talked to her, and that is the reason why I don't want to put nobody in a weird situation. And then that's, those are just my thoughts. Maybe it wouldn't be weird to her, but those are just my thoughts. So.
Okay, now this is not new to us. We have made it available for people to donate money for particular causes in the past. And it also, but the key to all of it is the comptroller's office, because someone has to collect it and someone has to disperse it. And my other question is, in the disbursement of the money, how is it going to be dispersed? I didn't hear that part.
Right. So there are no guidelines set up for that particularly just yet. So those are conversations I believe needs to happen on a separate board bill. I think putting it all in one place puts us in a place where anybody, when we're not here, can just repeal one thing, and then we end up with just one thing repealed. So I think the more complicated way to do it, therefore it makes a complicated way to undo it, is to set them up in different in different bills where you have different organizational ways where it operates. Just like they do with a whole lot of different laws there in the federal government, it'd be like law, and all of them are pertaining to each other, but they set it up in a way where just like we do with our clauses sometimes, if anything in this is illegal, then everything else is, you can continue on with everything else if this is deemed illegal. But I believe that if we do it in separate bills and we take our time and actually creating legislation with different organizations and make it specific on what we're trying to do, because I think it's difficult when we really get into the meat of it. We'll have so many different ideas on what people would like to do with any funding that comes down the pipeline. And we had a community meeting with your ward, my ward, and 10 other wards right now. We'd have so many people in there with different ideas that we probably would never get anything done to the point where we could even, get a dollar, because everybody have a different idea on how it should be spent. So my idea is, if we work it out piece by piece and we go bit by bit, once again, it makes it difficult to redo. It makes it difficult to
You're trying to make it difficult to undo.
Right. So make it difficult to undo, but also.
But the problem you have, sir, is you're making it too difficult to even do it. And I really want to suggest that we put some more into this, because it's really a simple process, and it's not really, it doesn't force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. And you talked about having the opportunity to plan, and I would like to have a chance for you to see what is in place for planning now. The chair and I both sit on the SLDC committee commissioner board, and having some additional dollars that are not specifically controlled by a government entity is good, but you still have to have a process in order for it to be dispersed. And so I'm going to listen to everybody else, but I'm a very comprehensive type person. So if I want to see something succeed, I want to put it in its best position to do that. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that.
That's it for me, Chairman.
Okay, Alderman Cone.
And if I can, do you mind if I could respond real quick? No?
Go ahead.
And I 100% understand the need for a process. But, once again, the only reason there is not that process piece is because it's individuals like yourself and other individuals who I'd like to be involved in building that process and seeing what that looks like. But I do believe we got to chop this up in a way to where we know for sure, you can't just undo this in one bill. Like, this has to be something we got to make this to where somebody got to work hard so we can get in front of it. Because if it's successful the way that I think it could be, and, of course, we'll talk offline on some other things. I should have called you before this, my apologies. But if it's successful the way I think that it could be, we definitely will have folks that are looking at trying to redo or undo what it is we've created. But this is simply just saying, hey, there's a pot there, we don't know what to do with it. And that is fine at this moment, knowing that it just exists while we work on how to disperse it. If we know there was $1 million pot, at least we know we got some money down. We got $1 million discussion to have. What we've been missing is a discussion about something that we got. We just discuss about kind of what we need. So, with that being said, I appreciate you, Alderman.
Okay, Alderman Cone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman, I'm curious, our colleague from the 19th already asked about the mayor's office and comptroller, but one of the other elected offices that's in the bill is the collector of revenue. Have you had a conversation with the collector of revenue?
I have not. Once again, the whole point is just to ensure, I know that it's lawful, and sometimes it's just as simple as that. Most of the time we got things going on with all these different departments and we're not talking to nobody about nothing. There's been plenty of bills that have came out and there's not one person at any meeting. There's not one person at the floor. There's not one department head there to represent what it is that they've been asked for. And I mean, hundreds of bills that have passed the floor. The reason that this one seems like something somebody should have been talked about, because it seems like something that is important. And if it's done the right way, it could be impactful. So my whole thing is to not put it in a place where individuals that are impactful already right now in their particular positions will be impacted by what it is that we're trying to do, and not put them in positions to where, and just being truthful, sir, white folks and nobody else is looking at them like, I can't vote for them no more because they knew about this, and it makes it
so
difficult.
Alderman, my question though was if you had a conversation with the collector of revenue.
I did.
Because the collector of revenue would be the one that would be responsible for not just the collection of the funds, but they need to update the billing cycle like to have it reflected on there so that people can check the box. So those are kind of like tactical things that need to be discussed with that office before an ordinance is done. And part of the reason I'm
Would they be
asking
directed
that,
to do it?
except it's nice to have those conversations in advance when we're drafting these bills. I can speak to that personally because I do have a fund that I did that's on those water bills. It's the City Hall Restoration Fund. The alderman from the 22nd Ward, many years ago also had Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And during those debates, one of the things that came up was, the process by which they need to go through to update bills and things of that nature. It's not as easy as just, we direct them to do it. So, it's important to have those conversations with other city departments. I think my colleague from the 19th already kind of asked the question around the process. I would add, maybe even programmatically what that looks like. I guess since you haven't had the conversation with the collector of revenue, one of the things that came up during those discussions, and I mean, this was many years ago, do you have an idea of how much you're trying to raise? I keep hearing millions of dollars, but
Well, that's an if, right? So there's not an idea of how much has been happening to us and how much damage has been done to us that you can actually put a number on. It's impossible. That's why there's never been a number put on it. You can't put a number on what has been done to people, period.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But
so there's not a number on how much I'm trying to raise. There's just a donation base. It's just, if you want to donate, you can. That's it.
Sure. So, but the reason I'm bringing that up though, Alderman, is, historically speaking, these, kind of check the box on the water bill funds, the most I've seen raised has actually been through Forest Park Forever, which I think in 1 year was able to raise $40,000 after they did a very extensive campaign, sending mailers out to their donor base in the city of St. Louis. Otherwise, it's usually, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around maybe $10,000 a year. And if
Aren't they all white though?
What's that?
I said, aren't they all white though?
I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, they're nonprofits.
Is not the board majority white, Forest Park Forever?
Oh, no. I mean, but there's also like other organizations that have been put forward. This isn't the first time that we've like had the conversation around putting something on the water bill, but generally speaking, looking at all of the different nonprofits and city funds that have been set up, it's been roughly about $10,000 per year that has been generated by this. People go and check the box. There generally needs to be more of a coordinated effort in order to get people's attention to do that and to also understand where those funds are going. So, I mean, that's perspective for you so that you're kind of aware of at least some of the information that's been shared in the past as it relates to that. But, I share my colleague from the 19th's concerns around just making sure that the comptroller is engaged, the collector of revenue, and the mayor's office when we're talking about these types of establishing a fund, collecting revenue, and then, obviously, what disbursement looks like. I'm happy to hear that you're talking about a companion bill. Usually if there's a companion bill, it's introduced at the same time, or it's at least passed around the same time. So, I'd like to see, what that looks like as well. But it sounds, like an intriguing idea. Certainly, interested in it, but sounds like it just needs a little bit more work.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for bringing.
I appreciate that, Shane. And the point is for us to have this conversation, right? And for me to talk to you, you to talk to me, after we've established something that we can actually talk about significantly to where we can put a protocol in place, right? One thing that we've never done is put something on the table specifically to have a conversation about. Even with the thousands of dollars that have been created before, it hasn't went into a pot right now that I can look at where there are documents that I know growing up and other individuals know growing up that I've seen specifically, right? That this is what dollars has been spent, particularly in our city, on trying to help eradicate, or not eradicate, but help some of these issues that existed. And these are the different things that we've done specifically. And these are things that are outlined. You can look at them, right? So what this does specifically is just saying, hey, everybody in the city,
every person, whether we have a way to distribute it now or not, while we're trying to figure that out, we still got to pay taxes tomorrow. You know, while we try to go through and figure out specifically what it is that we're doing as a city, because we've been trying for years, as you just stated. While we at least are trying to figure it out, there's a place where you can say, hey, man, I got 20 cents a day. Take that 20 cents and just put it there. That's fine. Now, I know there's no way to distribute it right this second because we all haven't created a plan specifically, and that takes a very long time, and that's just being real. But it gives you more haste when you got something to plan for. It gives you more haste when there's something actually there to talk about. The reason this conversation hasn't been talked about in 4 years since I've been here, once again, because there's nothing there to talk about. It's not even a dollar that a person can send our way that specifically is set up in a way where the city can look back and say, hey, we got some oversight over this.
And Alderman, respectfully, I understand that, but what I'm trying to also convey is that, you know, it takes time for the Collector of Revenue's office to be able to update their billing. Right now, you know, they bill on a quarterly cycle as well. You know, I'm sure you're familiar with that. So
Well,
it's
it just
not a
says at the
monthly
end
bill
of the
that goes
year,
out.
I believe the bill says.
Okay.
At the end of the year, I'm giving them plenty of time.
So
Plus
I'm just, I think
every
it's
quarter.
important though, like that, if that's the case, then we have some time to kind of talk through these different things. You know, get a companion bill put forward and, you know, make sure that we're voting on them together. But that's all the questions that I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I had a question for you.
Alderman Cone.
Sorry. Yeah.
So are you saying you won't support it today?
Not as it currently stands. We haven't had the conversations with the Collector of Revenue, the mayor, or the comptroller. I'd like to have their perspective, you know, on getting those funds set up as well and the process associated with it.
All right. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
One down. Next person.
Alderman Coulter.
I don't have anything to add to this freewheeling discussion. I'm not supporting this today. I'll use the term half-baked. If you come back with a real plan and a companion bill, I'll consider it. But, you know, using this committee hearing for your freewheeling discussion, I think is a waste of everybody's time. This is the second day in a row you've done this. And frankly, my patience is about up.
Second day in a row. I'm sorry, Jack. Can I ask you a question?
Alderman Coulter.
No, I'm not taking any questions from the alderman.
Okay. Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
Well, so I do have a comment. I'm sure I can do that.
Go ahead, Alderman Brandon Boxley.
Yeah. So first of all, it's a waste of time for you to make a comment that's saying that trying to give my people something small is a waste of time. That's a waste of time. And unfortunately, the 400 years we put in this city, the thousands of buildings that we built, the ones that y'all tear down every single day that we go around and have people shooting behind grass up to our behinds. And all I'm saying is we want to create an account, and you feel some type of way about an account, Jack? Mr. Alderman Coulter, it's an account, sir.
Okay.
It's just an account. That's it. There's nothing more than an account. And I'm not wasting nobody's time. I'm trying to do something that your people never righted. Y'all people wronged us. You did us wrong. Your ancestors.
Okay, Alderman Boxley, we got that point. Alderman Pam Boyd. Alderman. Okay, she said no question. Alderman Muhammad.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Alderman Boxley, for this legislation. I do support its intent, but I do have some questions because what I'm not a fan of passing weak legislation that's symbolic. So I just have a couple of questions, if you will be okay with answering them for me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Alderman. So ideally, this is a voluntary fund. So residents have the free will to say, I want to donate or essentially pay taxes into this fund. What happens if, let's say no one pays taxes into it, or donation to it, what happens then?
Absolutely nothing. It just sits there and there is absolutely nothing being done to it. You know, which is kind of what happens when we have employees right now. We short 1,100 employees. We got all these dollars that's not being spent. They just sitting in accounts while all these people are waiting to be hired. 1,100 some employees are short in the city of St. Louis, and the dollars are there every single year to employ them. So it's no different than that account just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. But the difference is it's not accruing interest like we're accruing interest, sitting all those millions of dollars in the bank and not doing nothing with those dollars. The question is, where all that interest going?
Thank you, Alderman. So now, in the legislation also says economic development in approved locations. I'm assuming that the approved locations will come in the following or companion board bill.
Yes, sir.
Who has the authority to allocate and spend these funds out of this reparations account?
There is not one person in the entire city of St. Louis that has the authority to do it at this point, period. And the reason that is because as soon as we have conversations as Black people, and you know this, about money that we're supposed to be helping folks with, we get out our minds. We be out here arguing over $1, ready to kill each other over 50 cents, and we ain't got $1 yet, right? If there's not a way set up where people comfortably are able to put folks in a position to where they spend these monies and they're helping a wide variety of folks because there's a public process that was made on how we create this, then we all fail in this, because there's not one person that's not going to walk around seeing themselves as not being a part of the process at some point in time. Our folks come from a long line of looking at each other and saying, you got this, I don't got it, how'd you get it, and I ain't got it, right? So the way that we do this is we saying, hey, we got an argument to have now. We be arguing over nothing. We argue over these blocks every day. My people out here killing each other. Your folks in your neighborhood is shooting each other up over blocks they don't own. Over blocks they don't own. But imagine if they own the block. Imagine if they looked at it, they collectively owned it and knew there was $1 there, particularly for them to fight over. Maybe a different type of fight then. And there'd be a different type of conversation when you're standing on that corner and somebody ready to protect it, right? We don't have nothing to argue over at this point. So we don't have a collective body that's going to be interested in having a reparations conversation. You know how much we talk about reparations and nobody shows up? Think about across the country, how many times we didn't have this conversation and nobody's at the table. Think about how many times you've had a meeting and every Black alderman on this board. Think about every time y'all have a meeting about the community, about the grass that people complain about. And out of the 11,000 residents you got, only 100 show up. Why? Because these residents are tired of begging for services. They're tired of begging for what it is that they feel like they should already have naturally. You know, and that's just the judge. That's the truth. They tired. And you can't say we're going to cut the grass without saying we got a pot to pour from at this point. We can't keep telling these residents we're going to help you with home improvements, but we ain't got no dollars to help you to improve your home. Seriously. This is saying we are trying to help our folks, and now we got a little bit of pot to pour from. How we going to do it? Just like right now, we allocating all these ARPA dollars in for Jack, I'm sorry, Alderman Coulter, and anybody else on this call, Alderman Cone, we getting ready to allocate all these funds, all this money to ARPA, but there ain't no implementation plan. We just voted on giving millions of dollars out to SLDC and everywhere else, but ain't no implementation plan. My people ain't seen $1 in home improvement, not a buck. We finna go out here and give all these different individual departments millions of dollars, and they ain't even got employees to cut the grass. How are we gonna go out here and pay money for these bushes to be cleaned up, and we can't even get the employees to sign up to cut the bushes? But you asking me to come up with some type of psychological, physiological way to, whatever it is that you're asking me for, to come up with something that we didn't even, this is a $0 plan. I'm asking for donations, and we don't even have a plan to do something for the city of St. Louis where we're finna give out millions of dollars to these departments. Well, let's be serious, man. Y'all can plan with me. Straight up. But it's okay.
Thank you, Alderman. So, but when we discussing something as crucial as this, as important as this, I think that it is essential and necessary to have a plan on a table, because again, when it comes to REAP legislation, when it comes to legislating without a plan, we know what happens. We've seen it happen. Me and you, since our last 5 years of being a part of this body. I support the intent of the board bill. I mean, when it comes to addressing the fundamental injustice and brutality that slavery played as an institution and how it still affects African Americans today, I support any remedy of that. I do just wish that this legislation was a little bit more in depth.
I'm so sorry, sir. I missed like the last minute. My phone cut out. I was trying to like run around and catch you. I'm so sorry.
Sure.
Like, it was about 60
I would like
seconds.
to see the companion bill. I would like to see a companion bill that addresses some of the key points of the legislation, because without that, we're establishing a fund that is not that's not demanded, that's not regulated, and it's just there. I'm going to vote for the board bill. If you take a vote this today, I will vote for it, and I would do so with some reprehension. But I would like to see that companion board bill, Alderman. And if it's strong legislation that makes sense, I would definitely co-sponsor. I would co-sponsor this now, actually. Matter of fact, Mr. Chairman and Madam Assistant Clerk, please add me as a co-sponsor. But again, Alderman, it is weak legislation, and I
Agreed.
think that we do better with something that is as important as this. And I will be willing to work with you on it. I'm pretty sure any other member of the body will be willing to work with you on it. It can be stronger, but I appreciate your stance and taking leadership on this very important matter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no further questions.
Thank you, sir.
Alderwoman Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say I appreciate the concept. I don't think anyone is necessarily opposing the idea. I just think that there's just a lot in the details to get worked out. I kind of had some similar questions with my colleagues, like the comptroller piece. Are you aware of what Evanston, Illinois put in place for their reparations program?
I am. About the marijuana?
Yeah.
I am. I've read it.
Yeah.
But it's for marijuana. We don't have nothing but legal. Medical here. So it's not like, I think it's
Just
a different type of fight, but I have read it.
I'm sorry, but on the expense, on how they're spending it, it's maybe something to look at. Again, I know we don't have that revenue stream, and enabling a revenue stream would be a little more complicated than what maybe you're trying to do. But it was distributing 10 million over the next 10 years with the distribution of 400,000 to eligible Black households. Each qualifying household would receive 25,000 for home repairs, down payments on property, and interest or late penalties on property in the city. So again, I understand that we may not have that potential revenue, but it is something where, it not only is in the form of reparations, but it also sort of helps the city as a whole. So I just wanted to raise that. I cannot support this today just because I don't think that there are enough details worked out. I think too, maybe, again, maybe something through SLDC, maybe already enabling and beefing up a program that already exists might be easier, or some sort of subcommittee or work group might be a way to work this out, and maybe working with some of the nonprofits out there in St. Louis. I know we've got a lot of them. So again, I don't think anyone really opposes this. It's just that we don't have enough details worked out. Thank you.
Mind if I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
What particular details are you looking at? You're referencing Evanston, right? And I definitely read that. When you look at this city in particular, right, the difference between us and Evanston and other places is the majority of the folks that live here are renters, right? So they don't own property. And when you put a down payment on property, you have to figure out how to pay for that property. Our folks don't have a lot of skills. This was one of the last places that let slaves go. And we also had, unfortunately, laws that carried all the way into the 1900s where folks couldn't read. You know, so it's a difficult time for individuals to kind of come out of that slumber without having a place where they can learn that they are worth something and they have something to give, opposed to just trying to figure it out. And, you know, just having a home is one thing. Having the ability to build that home is another thing. And, you know, that's one thing that we are generally, unfortunately, introduced to very early. We buy into everybody else's bill, you know? We go and rent, we don't know how the walls are made, how the sockets are pitted. All these different things create an environment. I'm not saying we, because there's a lot of Black men and Black women who do know how to do those things. But there's a vast majority of individuals who don't have those skill sets. And the unions have done a very, very good job of keeping people out for a very long time, which is why they have building union diversity programs, because we now are trying to figure out how to get more Black folks and individuals of color into that workforce, right? But there's still that disconnection though. There's still that separation between what happened, because you still have those fathers and mothers who can talk about how they were, unfortunately treated, incorrectly and discriminately. And you have those stories that have carried down all the way down to generations of now saying, hey, they don't want you there. They're gonna treat you some type of way. You got Black union workers now saying we don't get treated fairly. So, with those things being said, and not just the unions, and that's in a lot of different other places, corporate places, and I'm not picking on the unions at all, but if you go to corporate places, corporate America, there's plenty of places where you have people of color saying, hey, we're not being treated fairly in the workplace. That's why a whole lot of laws, discriminatory laws and all those things were set up, because we expressed that enough and got folks in places that were able to make these laws, and individuals that were of a different color to agree with, hey, we actually saw that. I want to do something about that too. I think that's wrong. So with those things being said, we don't have and have not had a long, robust history in the city where we've been trying to give out skill sets to individuals who are from a darker hue. And, no matter how much we kind of mirror other cities, our difference is we are number one in homicide. Our difference is we are number one in some of these things, and, that haunts our city. And unfortunately, we are a different type of people here. So we have to do things a little bit differently. We try to look at these other cities in ways where, we can kind of mirror our legislation and think that it may be something that can possibly help us out in a way where, folks will kind of act this way and things will go the same way that they went in that city. But the reason we do those things on a regular basis and they don't come out in a way that we expect them to is because we are a different type of people here. And that's Black and whites. We are, one of these cities in America where you can go 15 miles up the road and there's billionaires up the street, and down the street is one of the poorest places in America. It's just crazy, but it is our city. So, I'm just saying, particularly, I know we're looking at other legislation as being possibly, some type of a foundation or structured way that we should do this. All I'm saying is, knowing the way that our city is, Alderwoman Martin, knowing how we are as a board, knowing the different type of individuals that we have here, realistically, if I had this all doctored up and had it all perfect, we still would have folks that probably be like, we're not going to vote for this because of this or that. So I tried to keep it as simple as possible and just say, hey, if we got a pot, let's figure out collectively how to make that pot worth something. Right now, it's just a donation pot. It's nothing that is doing anything. If nobody puts nothing in it, that means the comptroller not doing no work, the mayor not doing no work. Nobody's doing any work if nobody donates to it. It's just simply a pot that individuals have the ability to say, hey, I can put $1 in here if I feel like it, and one day folks gonna figure out what to do with it. We don't have a plan, Alderwoman Martin. If Black people had a plan on how to fix our problem, we fix it. There is no plan. If there was a plan in America today that could help us figure out how to fix the situations that exist that mirrors our city. We got Chicago, all these other cities that mirror the same type of issues and problems we got here, we'd already fixed it. There is no plan. There is no one way to do this. We all are just trying to figure out how to get it done. So, you
Well,
know,
I think as legislators and stewards of the taxpayers, it is our job to be pretty detail oriented and figure out that plan before we pass legislation. We can't just ask people to give money to something and then not have some sort of committee or commission in place to spend those dollars. So again, I don't think that anyone really opposed. I mean, I shouldn't say that because I'm speaking for myself here. But just from the feedback from today, I don't think anyone opposes something like this. It's just a matter of how are we going to get those dollars out the
implement it,
door.
right?
Okay. Alderman Narayan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, just a teeny bit of housekeeping. Alderman Boxley, I got a couple of things to add, but then I was going to jump over to public safety to handle the academy bill that's over there while you finish up this, if that is all right.
Yes, please do.
Okay. Then just to kind of keep it short and sweet, I certainly understand and respect the reasoning for all of this. I know, you know, maybe a little bit closer to home for the Asian American community, we had the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which actually paid out reparations for the internment of Asian Americans during World War II, when property was taken and people were imprisoned just for being Asian American here. So I do understand part of where you're coming from. Certainly not the whole way, but I do want to just start off by saying that. I also get that it's not that these are problems that have plagued us since the original sin of America, which is chattel slavery. That, you know, we've been trying to figure out how to deal with this for quite some time, and I understand that that's where your companion bill kind of comes in here, is to try and figure out, how do we determine who's eligible for this? How are we deciding who's approving the specific locations that this money should flow to? Who's going to be overseeing this? Who's making those decisions? I do have some concerns, though, and you know, this would certainly be not for me to decide, but for folks in the Black community to decide. I think anytime you call something reparations, that there is a concern that people can then say, well, we paid reparations. And I know that that was a big issue in that 1988 Civil Rights Bill, because if you'd fallen short of what were appropriate reparations, then you never have to address the issue again. You can say, we paid reparations, we did the thing, and it's over with now. So I would just want to make sure that everyone's also thinking about that potential, that, you know, if we're calling it reparations and it's not nearly enough, and given what Alderman Cohn has said about the dollar amounts that are typically raised by this type of funding, you know, I'm certainly not opposed to this fund and what you're trying to do here. I do have some concern that people would be able to say, oh, well, you know, St. Louis did reparations, but if we're talking a few $1,000s a year, I don't see how that could truly be reparations for what we're talking about here. But like I said, a lot of that is for folks who are not me, frankly, to determine what's right for them, and come to some decision on that. But that's my thoughts on it. I'm going to jump over onto public safety and handle that academy bill. But thank you for bringing this, and thank you for your time, everyone.
I appreciate
Okay.
you.
Alderwoman Evans.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman Boxley, I am unclear as to where the funds would be coming from for these reparations, and who and how would individuals qualify?
So that's particularly not in the bill. What the bill has is a setup for a person to donate to this fund. So they would be able to, as you go in and pay your water bill, your tax bill, you'd be able to overpay that. And the few dollars that you'd overpay would go into this reparation bill, no different from you paying, a few extra dollars in snooks when you donate into different charities. But there's no particular way that it's to be distributed on that particular piece of legislation. And there is a reason for that.
Okay, so I'm still trying to grasp an understanding as to the donations to this fund. That would come from what?
You go in and pay a bill, and you could overpay that bill, and it'd be, you ask for it to be donated to the Reparations Fund, or to one of these funds.
Okay.
It's just a donation.
It's a donation
That's it.
by everybody. Any
Exactly.
and everybody.
Any and everybody. Somebody from Atlanta could come and donate to us, but it's not going to a single person, that's the reason why, it's kind of vague like this, because we have not set up particularly the way that anything can be distributed yet. This is just setting up an account and having the ability, because there's definitely some other stuff coming with it. If the account ain't there, then, whatever we're trying to add with it don't even matter.
Right, which leads to my next question as to who would be monitoring this fund.
Well, I'd like to set up a group of individuals to do that, but I like that to be a more robust conversation, kind of in-house. I think we need to have some community meetings on that. I think it'd be impossible to just come up with that as an order people and be like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. I mean, that's the reason why I didn't make it very, very intricate. The more people we add to this, the more oversight, the more this or that, we'll never get nothing done, because you're gonna have a million people saying it needs to be done like this. They think it should be done like that. We'll just never get to a point to where anything happens, because we'll have too many people saying it should be seen like this, or it should be seen like that, this or that. Like, we have to at least have something to talk about. And that is the point. We've been arguing for years on how to do something. We don't even have an account set up. I mean, think about that. It's been 400 years. We don't have a bank account. That's the waste of time.
Okay, Alderman Boxley, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Will you support this board bill?
I'm thinking about that.
Okay, Alderwoman and Gracia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Alderman from the 3rd, I'm curious if you have thought about using any of the RAM settlement money as a possible funding source for reparations.
Truthfully, I have. And I wasn't going to say anything about it. So just being honest, right? There's a lot of different ways we could pull funding, but I am scared to even talk about that, because I don't know how white folks going to feel about it. I'm just being real. Like, it's been so much disconnect. I don't know. So I'm just trying to keep it at the smallest level. So we got like the least to argue about. I feel like if there was $1 million conversation right now and I actually had $1 million on the table, it'd be so long, this meeting, about how it's going to be spent and who it's going to go to and how it's going to recirculate. I mean, look, $1 million for 153,000 Black people that live for, don't even come out to like, it ain't even $100 a piece. I mean, it's crazy. So, it has to go in a certain way where it makes sense. And I think it makes it difficult when I try to put a number on it and really ask folks for a certain account. Not account, but a certain number right now. So yeah, I have thought about, I've even thought about ARPA funds particularly, because we all in the census tract, but just being honest, is that comfortability level in knowing that how this will go. 9 times out of 10, we can't even set up an account. I know for sure I can't put $1 million in.
Okay, I appreciate that, anger. And I also wanted to acknowledge that I hear the anger and pain in your voice. And that's not lost on me. I think we should make a commitment as a board to undertake some sort of reparations. And I think the RAM settlement money windfall is possibly a smart place to start having that conversation. And I just wanted to acknowledge also that I'm supportive of what you're doing in this board bill, but I think it needs to have more details, and just wanted to let you know that I'm committed to continuing to work with you on this issue if you find it helpful. I don't have any further comments or questions.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Alderwoman.
Okay, Alderman Pam Boyd, I see your hand up.
Could you hold on 1 minute, Chair?
Okay.
Hope you ain't driving.
I'm doing 2 meetings, so I'll come back.
I'll come back to you.
I'm ready, Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
You
want to turn your video on for us?
Oh, I'm sorry. This not driving. This just too many meetings. That's what it is. It's not about the driving part here. My question is, and let me be real transparent. I support what Alderman Boxley is doing, but as he knows me, I'm a plan person. And so I see what you're doing, but I just feel, and me and you did have this conversation, I just think that we need to sit down and we need to plan this to make sure that all our ducks are in a row. And that's what I see we don't have. I see that you put a bill together with compassion, but I just don't see the plan. And that's what my challenge is. And the struggle that I see that, and like I said, we had a conversation. We got to talk to the comptroller, the mayor's office, the treasurer, and the collector revenue to make sure that everybody is in agreement and they're ready to put their plan together. So that's just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm gonna ask if any other non-committee members are interested in asking a question. Alderman Annie Rice.
Sorry, I'm just here listening. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Dan Guenther.
Do this the nasty way.
Don't think I see anybody else. Okay.
Alderwoman Davis.
I see Alderwoman Davis. I'll go to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had an opportunity to listen, and I also wanted to go back to my first comment. We have done these type of funds before, collecting money before. It's a very simple process. We can set it up, but please know, Alderman, there will not be a lot of money collected. And I don't want to give false expectations to our residents that we're going to have a ton of money available for reparations. Even if we took the whole, I don't know if they've divvied it up yet. So we don't know exactly what our portion of the RAMs, but even if we took the whole 700 million and you divided it among the number of Blacks who live in the city of St. Louis, you're still not going to you're barely going to have right at like $800 or some to give each one of them. That's not a lot of money. And that's not reparations.
I agree.
And I want to tell you, if you're going to do it right, because you've got to have it. You got to have a commitment from the state to have some long-term dollars come in. And Alaska is one of the prime examples, because the way theirs is set up, it's never going to end. Each resident gets like $1,200-$1,500 every year. Okay. So I just want to do it right. I don't want to do it wrong.
Oh, I understand that. I'm the same way, but you know how our board is. Let's be serious. If I had everything like Alaska, seriously, if I had people set up right now on this board and I already had it outlined, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Locally, you will not be able to achieve that. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Locally, we cannot achieve what you want to do.
Well, so me and you need to talk offline because you don't really know exactly what I'm trying to do other than just create an account. That's all this board bill says, create an account. I didn't even outline what reparations is. This is really, really particular. And I mean, come on, you know me, Alderwoman Davis. It's a reason why it's vague. If I wanted it to be intricate, it'd be very, very intricate. It's a reason why it's vague. Man, you need to talk. And the rest of the board members on the board, I'm sorry, go ahead, ma'am. My fault.
That's okay. So, and you know, I can deal with you're just asking for an account to be set up. And I'm sure that they can set it up. They can probably set it up in 24 hours. And then the work starts, okay? So, I guess we all, just because of who we are and how we operate, we always take everything and try to understand it to the end. Whereas you're at the beginning, and the beginning is, can we set up an account? Yes, we can set up an account. But what I don't want to happen is I don't want to have the citizens of St. Louis put on they've had so many different crazy rides, most especially in the last 4 or 5 years. I don't want them to be on another one, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't have the ability to provide reparations that make any sense, okay?
Not right now.
And we never will. Locally, we never will. Please understand that.
So my idea, just so you know, I don't want to give residents money. I'm not trying to give out $1. So just so you know that mental piece, I don't think if you gave folks 20, that's why I said earlier, you gave folks $25,000 every year. That is not enough. You could never compensate for what has happened. There is not enough money to give people, but there is another piece to it that makes sense.
So are you willing to retool your bill? Because we don't want to use words that take people to a different place. Okay.
Let me say
that. I think it's important to use words that make our people, just like they do on the TV, they be like, oh, this guy shot this person and look at him in a do-rag. You know, he's a thug. They literally use words to entice our emotional places so we can go to a mental place to think a certain way about a simple person who may not even be that way. Think about how they use the killers who go out here and do mass shootings. These people are ill. But we go out here and shoot 1 or 2 people and we thugs, murderers. The wordplay is very important. And it's important because our people need to open up their eyes and rise up to the amount of power we have. Simple as it's put, but I appreciate you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm done. I think that at the end of the day, we have entwined too much into this conversation. We have probably crippled any opportunity for success based on our conversations today. And I just want to end it. I'm sorry.
Okay, so thank you. So that'd be the last word from committee members or anybody. So I'm going to kind of sum it up with the last word and yield back to the Alderman from the 3rd Ward. I'm kind of concerned if people have gotten caught up in what's behind door number 1, 2, or 3, because there's some uncertainty about if we establish this fund, how is it going to be expended? I mean, who's going to manage it? Which are excellent questions, but that's not what's before us. What's before us is a simple request to set up a fund. Now, it has to have a companion bill because I mean, nothing's going to happen if you don't come back and talk about how money is actually, how it flows into the fund. So at this point, it's pretty benign, you know, and I would say that what the Alderman from the 3rd is doing is very consistent with one of the mayor's initiatives. The mayor has been very passionate and clear about she is for reparations, as well as the mayor in Kansas City and about 8 other mayors across the United States. So I feel pretty comfortable just based on what the mayor has said publicly about her support for reparations without even having, he didn't have to talk to her. She already on record for it, right? We don't have to ask the comptroller to set up an account. We are the legislative body. If we ask the comptroller to set up an account, we direct the comptroller to set up an account, the comptroller must set up the account. Now, we don't have to ask the collective revenue, but we should understand the process about how it would impact that particular office. It may cost that office some additional dollars, but maybe that could be paid out of the fund. So there's ways for us to be able to make this whole, if you will, and make sense to everybody. It seems like to me, most of the conversation is centered around the unknown. I'm just not sure. I mean, I certainly can appreciate, the Alderwoman from the 6th Ward, what I comment about using some of the Rams funds. I mean, it could be used. It could be used to give one-time payments. It could be used to build something that generates wealth for 100, 200 years. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. So this bill is only, the way I read it, unless somebody point out something different, it only establishes a fund. Now, if there's something in the bill that needs to be tweaked about establishing a fund, I certainly would hate to put the bill before a vote and somebody has this, real, itch about, I didn't like that, so I couldn't vote for it. I'm going to give the sponsor an option because I will have a committee hearing next Tuesday at 9 a.m. You can hold this bill. We can talk about it some more. We can be clearer. You can be clearer, it's your bill, about what this bill is, okay? I don't want the committee or the members to get wrapped up in step 2. We got to do step 1 before we can get to step 2. And what this bill is step 1. One of the things it's doing right now is elevating the conversation. And it's probably making some people nervous. I'm not saying people on the board, I'm just talking about maybe making some people in the public nervous. But guess what? It's been talked about. It's been talked about. It has been supported by, again, the head executive of the city of St. Louis, the mayor. Let's move the ball forward. Okay? But it's not my bill, but I'm going to encourage the alderman to hold it till Tuesday to give more comfort to members of the committee. And then we take it from there. So I'm back to you, Alderman from the 3rd Ward. It's your bill. You recognize on the close on Board Bill 208 for today.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm kind of, once again, I'm appalled at some of my colleagues to, once again, how you gonna ask me to come up with a 400-year plan? Like, this been going on for 400. You want me to come up with some stuff that ain't nobody in the entire United States came up with?
No.
I think that's, I'm not talking about you, Alderwoman Davis. Like, there's nothing that you, and I want to be real, there's nothing that one person on this board said to me.
Oh.
You all are my counsel. You are the people who I look up to for answers. So there's nothing you can say to me that's wrong. But I take it particularly personal when I have individuals telling me I'm wasting time trying to help my people. Maybe I didn't come the right way that you think it should have been, but there ain't no right way to do this. I'm not wrong for trying, but you wrong for telling me I'm wrong for trying, and I don't appreciate that, Jack, Alderman, and anybody else who feel that type of way. This is a real discussion. My people been hung by your ancestors. My father talks to me every day with dementia about how he had to get on the boxcar in the back and had rocks thrown at him just for going to Fairgrounds Park, the park that I'm the alderman over. I gotta listen to my father when I'm talking about him in his dementia area, going to this park, hopping in the pool, and him talking about the riots that exist there. Man, that's crazy. You gonna tell me I'm wasting time trying to help my people? That's wrong, man. And you wrong for trying to have me have it all together. I ain't got it all together. Whether I'm part of the legislative branch or not, we ain't never got it all together. And we never will. Our job is not to be permanent solutionaries. We are permanent problem solvers. As soon as you solve a solution, you go on and you find another problem with the solution you just solved 10 years later and they fix that again. There's not a law in this city when we start building houses that we not revamping now saying that law is wrong. And 100 years from now, somebody is going to say, Boxley, this was wrong. Let's revamp it. There's not a good time to start because 400 years ago, y'all did us wrong. 400 years, we've been asking for an account. Just an account. No, I don't have it together, Alderwoman and Alderman. Nor do I plan on having it together. If I came with a plan that was better than this one, it's still not going to be perfect. It's been 400 years of us trying to get it right. There is no perfect way. I can go to all the different cities in this nation and look at their reparations and how they set it up. Even, you know, if the Catholic Church is giving away $100 million this year, $100 million, and it still ain't gonna touch us. It ain't gonna touch me and my family. It ain't gonna touch none of us here. But if we don't start somewhere and give the Catholic Church somewhere to put $1 million, then we'll never have $1 million discussion. Right now, if I deem somebody over that account, we all will be looking into that person's history and background and saying, why are they qualified? Nobody's qualified right now because our people have not elected anybody as a leader in our communities that's able to pay retribution or be an overseer over the retribution of what we need to do, you know, the atrocities that have taken place. There is no one person. It's gonna take us all. So this ain't a one-time conversation. This is Alderman, can you mute your phone, sir? Thank you, sir. This ain't a one-time conversation. It's meant to have multiple steps. I'm not trying to waste your time, Alderman Code, or nobody. Never get started. That's all I'm asking for is a start. All I'm saying is an account. It's free. We may have to pay an extra $1 a year because ain't no money in there. That's how broke this account will be. But can we put some hope somewhere in the minds of the people who will grow up under us and say there is some way we can do something? No, we don't have no money right now. I don't have hell, if I had $1 to put into it, I swear to God, I put the first $1 in the reparations account for the city of St. Louis. I'd be the first. And I'm okay with knowing that $1 not going nowhere until I and all these other people create some type of agreement and how we gonna spend that $1, but I know it's there. Just like when you go to the bank and you put $100 in there, you know it's there when you figure out what to do with it. Half the time we get checks all the time and you don't know how you're gonna spend your money. You're looking for your next invention, your next business idea, your next way to do something, your next thing to invest in, then water heater, whatever it is you're trying to do, you're saving that money for something. All I'm saying is we are saving it for the unknown because we don't know. We don't have a clue how to help our people right now. We're dying every day and our people have no hope, zero. But what they can have is individuals looking down on them saying those people need some help. What they can have is individuals looking down on them saying that I have a little bit to help them with, just like those folks in Africa. You give dollars away all the time for the pets and the needy and the this and the that, just because they own commercials and don't nobody go into who gonna get the money. Literally, think about all the white folks that went out here and gave $1 to all these commercials. You saving a child in Africa and you adopted somebody. You ain't never seen that child. But we can't set up an account for my people. Sir, I'm gonna ask for my favorable consideration from every single person on this board, and I hope every Black person votes for it. We will get this right. But today, we will at least try to start walking a path where we can get it right. The votes are only not heard if the Black people on this board say no. There is enough of us right now to say yes. We've been waiting for years to be able to outvote. We can't outvote a thing on the floor right now. Why can't we outvote nothing? Because we get outvoted every trip. Right now on this board, we can outvote right now. We got Alderman Boyd, we got Marlene, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Collins Muhammad, that's 3. Alderwoman Pamela Boyd, that's 4. Alderwoman Gwendolyn Evans, that's 5. Myself, that is 6.
You want to close? You
Uh,
want to close on the bill? You sound like you had closed, then you start talking again.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm counting my votes while I'm talking. I just didn't want to be blank. But I know we got 5 votes, and we got, let me see. I'm reading them. I'm being frank. Alderman, that's 2. That's 3. That's 4. Look like we got 4 against. Oh, no, was it 1, 2?
Let's not make any assumptions, Alderman Bosley.
4, 5. I'm not saying no names. I'm just counting members. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know, man. But hey, this is my thoughts, and I'm sorry.
Alderman Bosley, are you ready to
Yes,
close?
sir.
Okay, we've closed.
I'm
So
not.
we're gonna. I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 208.
You know what?
Can I?
Mr. Chairman.
Close. Alderman Bosley.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I make a,
Wait a minute. Let me see what he wants to do. Go ahead, Alderman Bosley.
If we're gonna have another meeting on a Tuesday, what I'll do is I'll hold it, beef it up just a little. What I don't want to get stuck on, once again, is that step 2. And I don't think that we'll never have this right. And I want all my people in this committee to know we cannot get this right. This is a forever changing thing. We are forever changing every day that we live. These kids came from a place where they selling dope to now we doing dope. We're trying to figure out how to live every day.
Alderman Bosley, I think we agree with you. Now, tell us what you want to do. Do you want to
I want to pass it
hold
out,
this
sir.
bill until next Tuesday, March the 1st at 9 a.m., or do you want to vote? So we can move on.
Understood.
Use good judgment.
I will hold it to Tuesday.
Okay, we're gonna hold Board Bill 208 until Tuesday around 9 a.m. Madam Clerk, please make note of that, please.
So noted.
Okay, let's move on to, y'all thought we were done, didn't you? Let's move on to Board Bill 197. Alderwoman Martin, because, oh, no, she's on the committee. Alderman Oldenburg. It's Alderman there. Alderman Oldenburg, you're recognized on Board Bill 206, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. I'm going to just start off by saying that I had some invited speakers to this. They were unable to make it. That's on account of my fault. I kind of gave both the chief of police as well as the director of public safety very short notice to speak on this. I do think it's important that they deliberate on this board bill. So we will not be taking a vote, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I noticed though there is time on Tuesday, which there's going to be another meeting scheduled. So I look forward to having the chief and the director of public safety there so that they can certainly weigh in on this. I think that's important. I will just frame it very quick for discussion purposes, which is this is a reappropriation bill that effectively will reappropriate half of a $5 million overtime line item for police that was originally in Board Bill 2, which was the original ARPA funding appropriation, and put half of that, keeping it in the construct of the police department, but segregating half of it for real-time crime center equipment and camera purchases and upgrades. So I think that's does really 2 things. I think it'll be helpful to get a status update on the police department's overtime situation and where they're forecasting to be for the remainder of 4 months of the city's fiscal year, where they are now, if their policy has changed. And then additionally, I would love to see an update on what I know is a plan and a purchase request for badly needed equipment and cameras in the real-time crime center that's been around for, I think, a couple years now. 300 cameras have been needed to complete the system and the grid that exists there. So that's effectively the simplicity of this bill. And we'll wait for our director of public safety and our chief to weigh in. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if folks have questions on it specifically, or if, since we're not voting, we want to just move on to the agenda.
Yeah, we're not going to take questions on
Great.
it, but did I hear you say it was some simplicity in this? Is that a promise?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So Madam Clerk, we will hold Board Bill 206 until March 1st. Please make a note of that.
So noted.
Okay, next board bill is, or the last board bill is 197, sponsored by Alderwoman Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't even know if we still have people on anymore. I know public safety is at the same time, but I will try to be quick. I am at this point bringing this up for informational purposes, as I've had a lot of conversations since this bill has been filed, but I do have someone here to testify, and I want to go ahead and just raise this conversation. When we talk a lot about how the Board of Aldermen is a check on incentives, and that's a conversation that's becoming more and more popular here in St. Louis City. The ordinances that we have already passed, like minority workforce requirements, like the prevailing wage requirement on incentivized projects, those are sort of tools in the toolbox on how we can make sure that we are developing responsibly and using incentives. So as I mentioned, we have passed these incentives already, or I'm sorry, we have passed these ordinances already. So what I'm going to do is create some sort of inspector mechanism to ensure that when the city does provide incentives, that the developers are meeting the requirements for minority contractors, minority workforce, and then also prevailing wage. So this is something that the board clearly values, as these have been popular pieces of legislation. And right now we are having trouble getting the numbers from St. Louis Development Corp. That said, we also are under some new leadership, and just talking with some of our colleagues, many of you, I think we're all kind of on the same page that we want to make sure this is getting tracked, but we also want to make sure we're doing it in the right way, and that we are, and then we are giving everyone and the new folks a chance to weigh in and provide us with how they plan to do this. I also talked with Rich Bradley at the Board of Public Service, which is where I initially wanted to house this enforcement mechanism. Mr. Bradley does a great job on public works projects that also have these requirements, and he's happy to work with us, and he's happy to lend some staff help on how they manage that, but it may not be the right place to house that mechanism. And I just want to also mention that Kansas City has passed this, and then St. Louis County recently passed this, I believe, unanimously. So I think that we're headed in the right direction, and I have at least, I know one witness here who's waited a long time, Tim Green, with St. Louis NECA and with IBW here to testify. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and have swear Mr. Green in and have him make his remarks, and then we'll have questions from the committee. Good afternoon, Mr. Green.
Good afternoon.
Do you promise or swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, again, state your name and the organization you're representing, and then you may
My name
continue.
is Timothy Green. I work for St. Louis Electrical Connection, which is a labor management co-op between the IBEW, represents 4,000 workers, and St. Louis Chapter NECA that represents 150 electrical and communication contractors. I'd just like to go on record in support of this legislation. You basically, as the Alderman said, have these ordinances on the books, and it is a state law. And I read through the bill, and it pretty much goes word for word what St. Louis County passed, what Jackson County has, and what the state of Missouri has in Chapter 290 in their rules and regulations of enforcing the state prevailing wage law. The state prevailing wage law has been around since 1958, and it's basically to make sure that the wage rates for construction workers in your locale, which is the city of St. Louis, represents what the standard wage rate is so that your contractors can compete. One of the ordinances in state law that political subdivisions go by is that you have to go with the lowest responsive responsible. We all know what lowest means, but there's really never a true definition of responsive and responsible. So what the prevailing wage does is make sure that local contractors are on an equal playing field for contractors that might have substandard wages and come in from other states or from outlying areas in the state. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And once again, St. Louis County did pass this, I think about 1.5 years ago, and they have a full-time inspector that oversees the MBEE and the WBE compliance, as well as prevailing wage. Jackson County has had this ordinance for over 20 years, and Councilman from the city of Kansas City, Kevin O'Neill, is pushing the guidelines that Jackson County has similar. But as we both know, city of St. Louis is a county, or is a city not within a county, so they are one of the 115 jurisdictions throughout the state. Do I have to click off?
Chairman, I think you're muted.
Thank you. That's why, Alderwoman Davis.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor of the bill, we have had a conversation. I am in support of this suggestion, but I think that we need to also do some additional conversations with various departments on this. And as you know, Mr. Chairman, there are some very specific things that are moving forward with SLDC that is also looking at how to restructure that department for them. And actually, it's going to be much more comprehensive than just one person. So I do support it, and I'm looking forward to having all of the information included that is going to be provided by the city of St. Louis. And I want to say hi to Tim and thank them again for having their museum in the 19th Ward for IBEW. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Cone. Okay, Alderman Kotar.
No questions.
Okay, Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
No questions. I support this, and the sponsor and I did talk, so I do support it.
Okay, Alderman Muhammad.
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Alderwoman Mark. Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Orion.
No questions.
Okay, Alderwoman Evans.
No questions.
Okay. This is certainly long overdue and certainly something I support. Kind of a little disappointed that because BPS does a really good job. They already have the mechanism in place. But I understand also by taking on more than you really need to, because a lot of other stuff is more development projects, and which is kind of out of his wheelhouse. But definitely long overdue, and I look forward to getting this past the goalpost. So you let us know what you want to do, Alderwoman.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the conversations we've had. I do think we need to figure out a different place for it. Like you said, BPS is handling those public works projects that have their standards, but we need to figure out the proper place for the check on the development. So I'll continue this conversation and also talk with SLDC, and we will go from there. And I appreciate you letting me add this to the agenda.
Absolutely. So we'll go ahead and hold this in committee. And I believe that was the last board bill. No resolutions. Committee discussion. All members were present. Okay. With that, anybody raise your hand if any committee member have any final thoughts, questions, or comments. I will acknowledge you. Okay, seeing none, I want to thank everybody for their patience today. It's been a long hearing, but it was well worth it. We get paid to do what we do. With that, the Housing, Urban Development and Zoning Committee for February the 24th is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.